Hello and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's Game of Thrones Season 7, Episode 4 live discussion. Thank you so much for everyone in the chat who's waited for us. I know we're running a bit late tonight, about half an hour late, but we have two very special guests to join me to talk about Season 7, Episode 4, both with very good, very successful YouTube channels. First off, it's my old friend who's joined me for several discussions before, so great to have you back on here, Max from Buzztox.
Hey, how's it going, Mark? Good to see everybody here. I'm glad to have a long Game of Thrones discussion because this episode was a freaking badass episode. I loved it.
Cool, and also very happy that Kevin from Batt Productions is joining. We first met on the Trial by Trivia. We did a couple of matches together there, which is a lot of fun, so I thought I'd invite him here. So thank you so much, Kevin, for joining us.
Of course. Thank you for inviting me on. These two guys were super fun to hang out with during that Trial by Trivia, even though I was embarrassing. But it was great to meet them. That was the positive that came out of it. I'm really happy to be here to have a discussion because, like Max said, it was a super awesome episode.
Awesome. And for those of you who join us typically every week, my Apkin Tomko will not be joining us this week because he's traveling away, but we have these two great guests instead. So let's go ahead and get into the episode. First off, we'll start with you, Kevin. What were your overall thoughts on this episode? What do you think overall?
Overall, I thought it was the best episode of the season so far. It satisfied a bunch of feels I think that we had going on. I mean, obviously it built on a few different things that we're just waiting on at this point, like TikTok, like Jon and Daenerys, that kind of thing. Of course, we finally saw like Dany get her first real victory, not like the stupid taking over Casterly Rock. Like obviously that was legitimately a loss in the end, but like that was really cool. Got to see the dragons. I mean, it was just overall it was very good. But the good thing is I saw like a few more minor meanings, I thought, in the episode that, you know, kind of got brushed over that are like super to me as characters. One particularly with Bronn, which we'll probably talk about a little bit later, but there's a lot of it was super good. There was a lot of really cool things in there that I guess I didn't necessarily think would come so quickly.
Cool. And Max, what was your thoughts on the episode?
Yeah, to me, this episode definitely best of the season. Absolutely loved it, and I love the way where we're at now in the show, where all these characters are together that we love, and we get to spend we're still getting those character moments that we were nervous about losing because of these 7 episodes. We're still getting those great character moments. We're getting like great action also, which was unbelievable. It's like debatable if it's the best of the season or series entirely, which is unbelievable. And it just continuously impresses me over and over again. And yeah, just the deep characters. And I absolutely love it. It was a great episode.
Totally agreed.
Yeah, I think it was definitely a great episode. I'm not sure if I'd say it was like the best of the entire show, because there was a few like little nitpicks I had about it here and there. But overall, I would still give it like a 10 out of 10. I would still say this is one of the best of the best. Like that action sequence alone was just like probably the most mind-blowing battle sequence we had so far. But I've actually been quite surprised with there's actually been a lot of lukewarm reaction, which I think that is in the minority, but I've seen a lot of people who are kind of just it's okay about this episode, which kind of surprised me because I was
people are
blown away by it.
People are getting real snobby, man. Like they really are. Like
yeah, we're spoiled.
This is how I feel all the time. I mean, like, do people remember some of the episodes in like the middle of like I don't know season 4 or something where it was literally just like I don't remember if it was season 4 or not, but like those little scenes where it's like Sansa and Littlefinger just talking like in a carriage. Like, do people remember those? Like every scene right now matters so much.
And yeah, they have huge meaning. It's awesome.
They're like, meh, whatever. So tired of Sansa. Come on, give me more dragons. Like Sansa's actually super important right now and doing like she's gone so far, and people just go, no, Sansa sucks, and then that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So, yeah, we'll get into this, of course, when we get more into the episode. So let's go ahead and start digging into this. And let's start with Winterfell. with the big. First, I want to start with the scene with Littlefinger giving the cat's paw dagger to Bran, because this is something like people have been like speculating about all year and going crazy about the cat's paw dagger or whatever. But I don't know. Yeah. I'm not sure if it plays that it's going to play that big of a part in the show, but it does kind of feel to me like they were sort of leaving it open, like the who actually sent the assassin, because this is something that's never been answered. It's been speculated over years, and I got the feeling just that Bran actually does know, he's just not saying yet. So what are your guys' thoughts on it? Do you think we'll get any answer as to who sent the assassin, and do you think it's going to have an impact on the season going forward?
I don't know if we're going to get a concrete answer on who the assassin was. I always just thought it was kind of Littlefinger's continuous schemes. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, that's the continuous question I have with Bran, is that he says that he sees pieces and fragments, but yet he sees everything. So it's the debate whether, like, can he put all these ideas together? And does he know everything about Littlefinger's past? Because he did say chaos is a ladder. So it raises a lot of questions as to, would Bran even want to get Littlefinger like in trouble or whatever for his crimes in the past? Or is Bran, he's not even Bran anymore, which I loved about a later scene, as he talks about how, you know, we're consumed, we are who we are because of our past and our memories. But imagine being somebody who remembers everything. Like, you're no longer you're everything combined. So Bran may not even have a want to go after Littlefinger because he doesn't even associate himself as Brandon anymore. He doesn't have those drives anymore. So I just found that part really interesting. And I guess it's later in the season where we'll see if that dagger really plays a role. Right now, in this episode, it seems like it's really just a gift for Littlefinger to try and get Bran on his side. Because if I'm not mistaken, Littlefinger might have thought that Bran would have been the next Lord of Winterfell in that moment.
I mean, that's maybe the case. As far as the next Lord of Winterfell, I admit I actually didn't go as far to think that, because I don't think actually Littlefinger wants that anyway. I think he kind of firmly wants Sansa, you know, to stay there. But you never know. He likes to hedge his bets. As far as the wanting revenge, I agree with you on that one. I don't think Bran has any interest in that. I think it's too petty for him at this point. He's like, bro, I'm dealing with the ice zombies, man. That's my role now. Whatever he did, even though, you know, he killed my father, that is inconsequential in comparison to what's about to happen. So yeah, I mean, him just handing over the dagger like that to Arya as if it was nothing, I think that was not symbolic, but that kind of gesture and how easy it was to me, like, just ends up bringing that to the forefront, I think, since that dagger is actually a pretty big deal in his life, but he's just like, whatever. It doesn't mean anything. So yeah, so as far as that, I actually pretty much totally agree with you on that one. As far as how that's going with Bran. And I know a lot of people really hate the new Bran. They're like, man, Bran is such a jerk. I go, like, I like him better. Oddly enough, by having no personality, he has more of a personality. And it's incredible. Yeah, I have other thoughts, but they're jumbling in my brain right now. So I'm gonna kick off to Mark. What do you think, man?
Yeah, like, I was sort of thinking that Littlefinger was kind of assessing Bran as a threat to Sansa, because I think his ultimate thing is that he does want Sansa to rule the North and be the queen. Since he has he's rightfully ahead of her in line. I think that's what the whole meeting was about, and he was trying to sort of, you know, maybe not sort of like kiss up to him, but more of like read him. And I think reading that he said, I am not Lord Stark. He knows that he's not a threat at all. But then, of course, when he says chaos is a ladder, that, of course, makes him think he's a totally different threat. Now, I am actually very at a loss. I'm very up in the air. I don't know how Littlefinger is going to respond to Bran saying that, because you could tell by the look of his face, he was totally caught off guard. Like, I don't think we've ever seen him like that shocked before, because we haven't really seen him deal much with like magic or mysticism. So yeah, you have any thoughts on how he might react to that?
I mean, I'll say that I have to assume he's going to try to kill him. I don't know how, but this is the first person, you know, because of the mystic ability that is going to have the opportunity to just outright out his whole plan. I mean, he got rid of Liza before Liza could do it, and Liza's was maybe the only person that knew like the full extent of Littlefinger's dealings, and now Bran's the only one. And you know what he did to Liza, so she's probably going to try. He's going to fail, but he's probably going to try to, you know, kill him.
Yeah, see, for this, I really don't know. Like, the walls are slowly closing in on Littlefinger. And, you know, he is running out of room to do. And you're right, with, like, magic and all of this extra aspect of the world that Littlefinger isn't prepared for. He's meant for, he likes political scheming, that kind of thing. And Bran is just a whole other thing. So I don't know if he would, it's a debatable if he would kill Bran or not. I'm sure he's going to try and stay by Sansa's side, try and be loyal. And he kept, like, earlier episodes, he kept saying, like, are you happy? Like, he's trying to hammer home a different aspect of trying to get her, like, appreciation or get his acceptance get her acceptance in a way. But who knows with the dagger? Like, Bran, if Bran knew that, Bran would be the one to know if Littlefinger was going to kill him. Maybe. Like what he has to do, what helps the Long Night in the future. So maybe giving the dagger to Arya was more than just a gift. It was like, you need this for the future, whether that's its Valyrian steel for White Walkers or for, you know, whatever going forward. But yeah, those are my initial thoughts on that.
I actually think that's a really good theory that Littlefinger would try to kill Bran. I didn't think about that, but I think your reasoning is really sound, that he doesn't like people knowing his shit. I think the only thing that might hold it back is if Littlefinger doesn't actually believe that Bran has these powers. And all he knows is, he said, chaos is the ladder. So he doesn't know the extent of it. He doesn't know the extent of what Bran knows or what's going on. But he might maybe just be creeped out enough by him that he'll know that he's a threat that needs to be eliminated. And I don't know, man. Oh, what's that?
I don't know, man. Because like, chaos is a ladder. I know that's such a small thing, but that is literally, in one sentence, Littlefinger's whole strategy of getting to where he's at right now.
Yeah. No, you're right. The one thing with Littlefinger, I think, is that he would kill only last priority. That's like Lysa Arryn, he was backed up into a corner. She caught him and Sansa. It was a whole thing. And like, if you were to kill Bran, it would have to be the last straw, I would feel like. If he can't scheme out of it, then he'll have to resort to that. But that's how I feel about that.
See, I definitely do think that he's scheming something. I think at the moment, like when he was meeting with Bran and when he was watching Arya fight Brienne, he's just gathering information, because the best like laid plans and schemes, and this is what he said in the last episode about, you know, see everything happening at the same time, see everyone as a potential ally or as a potential enemy. And that's what I think he's doing. He's reading the situation. I hear a lot of people online complaining that Littlefinger is being ineffectual this season, and he seems like he's dumb. He's not the great schemer that we've seen in the past seasons, but I think he's just leading up to that. I think it's all going on in his head right now. Like, he's not constantly in action doing schemes. He has to sort of lead up to it, and I think he does have a big plan going forward, and I think we will see something like that.
Yeah, looking at it, I just have to think about certain things. Sorry. Just like he has Robin in his pocket. So maybe that could have anything to do with his military force. Maybe he could get Robin to pull it. That's the only thing I can think of that he could kind of take away from the Starks that they would need, or like a chess piece that he could use. Other than that, like, I feel like he's just trying to build relationships and try and not step on people's toes. And I don't know, just kind of create a stronger alliance in the North, because I feel like that's all he really has right now.
True.
But yeah, I think that's his only play. I can't really think of anything else that he would do. And like, things that would bite him in the ass is like earlier, maybe last episode, Sansa found out that Maester Luwin kept all of the scrolls. So that may lead to new information about Littlefinger, and it may go forward from there, but I'm not sure.
That's fair. Yeah, you know, I have to admit, actually I have a random cool theory there. It's never going to happen, but I'm pretty sure that like Littlefinger is going to die with like, he's going to die for sure this season. I think, but I envision him dying, losing everything, like everything he's built. And the easy way to do that, when you just talked about the veil and Robin being in his pocket, people have been mentioning how Sansa has so many traits of Cersei. I'm thinking, what if Cersei or Sansa goes full out and ends up basically boning Robin and taking the veil right from underneath Littlefinger. It may
That's
be
funny.
easy enough. It may be that easy. And then Littlefinger can die after trying to kill Bran with nothing to his name anymore as far as what he's entitled to. Although I guess is he still technically like Lord of Harrenhal still?
I think so. That's how I play it off. Maybe wrong though.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, yeah, that's very, very precarious because it depends on who you think of as the ruler. Because you think if Cersei's the ruler, she would have retracted that by now after she learned that he's declared for the North. So, yeah.
Yeah, you would think so.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's assume he doesn't have that and he could possibly lose the veil in that scenario. And then he just dies lonely and sad with his goatee. So there is that, I guess. But I'm sorry, I'm going off the point a little bit here as far as the brand and stuff. That's just a goofy thought I had ages ago. Now I'm like trying to do this thing where I feel like I can actually write out the rest of the season, and it's not been super fruitful so far. Yeah, so Littlefinger's going to be trying a whole lot. And as far as the testing goes that you said, Mark, like he definitely did that with Jon down in the crypts. He basically tested him out to see if they could work together in some way, if he was willing to play ball. And it ended just like it did with Ned, where, you know, Ned basically tries to strangle him. So Littlefinger's like, nope, can't work with you. And then Littlefinger has this dagger Bran. He says, listen, if you need anything, just let me know. And Bran's like, no. So can't play ball with him either. And he's probably going to do something to Arya the same way. And she's going to be basically like, piss off. I know what you did. I know you were talking to Tywin and Harrenhal about like killing my brother during the War of the Five Kings. So piss off. So they're all not going to play ball except for maybe Sansa. And he's probably going to go hard on that and try to get rid of Bran. And he's going to die. So, yeah, he's doing a lot of trading of like touching for diplomacy, I think. Kind of like you were talking about, Mark, earlier.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I don't know. Like, I think, I do think that he is. Some people I've heard have been saying that, Littlefinger would have been smarter just to go back to the Vale and sort of play up with Sweet Robin because he's already on his side. But the thing is that the Vale doesn't really have that much power compared to the North. Like, the North, having both kingdoms is a lot more power for him. And I think that is going to be the basis of his huge power play. So yeah, I kind of lost my train of thoughts here. Any last thoughts on Littlefinger before we move on?
I'm gonna be so sad if he will die, I'm confident, but I'm gonna be so sad. Like, I do believe that he's appeared ineffective and maybe there is something underneath that he's trying really hard for and we just don't get it yet. But it really does disappoint me to see such like a badass wild card basically just like doting around behind Sansa. Like, Sansa's literally going, I hate you and I don't want you near me. I just need your army. And then he's just like falling behind. He looks like that loser kid who wants to date like the hot girl in high school, but like carries her books around. And it's really weird and it's annoying, but I assume he's doing something bigger, like you said, Mark.
See, I'm not going to complain about Littlefinger yet. I'll complain about it if the season ends and he doesn't do anything. I think at this point, though, it's still possible that he might do something. He might have a big play coming. So if that happens, then I'll be very for it. And this will be rightfully building up to it. But if nothing does happen, if he doesn't do anything, if he just like tries to kill Bran or something and then Sansa kills him, then that would be kind of boring. But I have a feeling that he has a play, especially like last week when he was talking to Sansa, even though she was very dismissive of him at first, like when he said the thing about, seeing everything in your mind, I got the sense that he was getting to her and that his ultimate plan is to corrupt her. And I think when you see the conflict between her and Jon, I don't think that's a far-fetched plan. I think he could actually succeed at doing that.
Yeah, I agree. And just final thoughts on Littlefinger. I think slowly, this season, I think we are slowly seeing his downfall. Even in episode 2, we see him talk to Jon. He tried to get a marriage proposal from him with Sansa. That was one of his plays. He's been trying all these different plays, and they're slowly not working out. And I think we are going to see slowly his downfall. And, I've been saying for a long time, we got 6 episodes for season 8, and I think, it's time for the whole political games to end. And I think it's going to start with Littlefinger.
Cool, great. So let's go ahead and move on to Arya. Arya's big return. Oh no, wait. Oh, sorry. Let me backtrack a bit. Before we get to Arya, I wanted to talk a little bit about Mirror going to Bran and saying that she's going home now. This is like the one thing of the season. This is probably my biggest nitpick of the entire show. Like a lot of people are nitpicking other stuff. This is the thing I had the most issue with, because it seemed like there was just a contrived way for the writers to get rid of her because they didn't like her anymore. It doesn't seem to make any sense that she would, I want to be with my family at this time. Well, why don't you bring your family up here to help fight against the White Walkers? That would seem to make a lot more sense to me. And plus, with all she's been through with Bran, that she would just like fuck off now for no good reason. Like, I don't know. I just didn't really buy it. A lot of people think differently. But what are your thoughts on that?
I totally get the nitpick, and like this is another example of like they do kind of, it is a way to cut her out. You know, she wants to see her family, she wants to go home. So it'll be interesting to see if she ever does come back. We know that Howland Reed is at the neck and she's seeing him, but I don't know if the show will introduce him like they do in the books. But I can speak for the scene and say that I really liked it, and the scene was needed because it needed to explain Bran. Because like I totally agree, I love this Bran because it makes sense. If you're seeing everything at once, you're not even going to be human anymore because you're made up of everything around you. He's not made up of Brandon Stark anymore. He's made up of so much more. So I think it was really good for them to explain that, you know, he's made up of so much more memories than he was as Bran, and they explained it really well, and they gave a good explanation as to how he behaves and why he behaves that way. And yeah, I just think it really reaffirmed the new Bran in this season, and I appreciated it. As for the nitpick, I just kind of brushed over it, and I think it's fine. I don't know if they'll introduce her again. We will have to see. But what do you think, Kevin?
I think I don't care if I ever see Mira Reed ever again. She's I don't care. The only thing is though, people will be really like, I think people are willing to brush over that whole thing anyway, like whether it makes sense or not, is if there's a possibility of Howland Reed appearing on the show. I don't think casual watchers care because they don't really, they go like, oh wait, maybe that was that guy from Tower of Joy, if they even remember what Tower of Joy is. But if you're like a super big fan, everyone was like, where the hell is Howland Reed? You've had several wars happen that involve the North, and Howland Reed, who's supposedly super loyal to the Starks, has been nowhere. So we want an explanation. We want to see him. So that's why I'm down with the idea of her returning only if Howland comes back. But otherwise, I don't care. I'm glad she got Han Solo'd by saying, "Oh, like, aren't you grateful this happened?" Bran's like, "Thanks. Yep." You know, it's like then he goes into the carbonite. Yeah, whatever. You know, like Max said a lot of great things about how the scene was needed to explain the whole like Bran character and what he is now. Now he's a three-eyed raven. He's not Bran. So it was good for that. But man, I do not care for Mira Reed one flipping bit. But the last thing I'll say,
yeah,
this will be my end statement, but I just remember it in my head because a lot of people are like, why is he being such a jerk, particularly to Mira in that scene? And I mean, it's not the same exact thing, but there were a lot of there is a lot of similarities between how Bran is acting / talking and Jojen when he was like in some green sight and stuff. So like some of the mannerisms, like kind of being like stiff, robotic, are kind of similar. They're not exactly the same, but you can kind of see that it's definitely related to that, and Bran's not just automatically like a jerk now, you know. It comes with the territory.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the chat they were asking earlier if we'll see the Reeds in season 8. I don't know. I'm very split on this because on one side I think I see the show rushing towards the end, and I seem like they're gonna not spend time on introducing any new characters or exploring these sort of side plots. But on the other point, during the Tower of Joy scene, they made a point of saying, oh, that's Mira and Jojen's father. So it does make me think, like, them pointing that out, that it was setting up for him to be introduced in real time, which is part of the reason why I wanted her to say, I'm going back to get my family. But maybe that would have been a bit too obvious, and maybe they'll just show up there later. And I don't know, like people are asking if we'll actually see Homeland Reed. I doubt that though. I think if we see them again, they'll show up back in Winterfell, back in the main story. We're not going to get a scene with just Mirror down in was it Grey Watch, I believe?
Yeah, Grey Watch.
Yeah.
Come on, we have to find it first. That's the trouble. You can't find the damn thing.
Yeah, sure. Mirror knows how to find it.
Krennic, man, I tell you.
But yeah, like I do agree with what you were saying about how that scene was needed for the brand part. Like that part of it, I liked. I thought it was really great how she explained, like, you died in that cave. So it's explaining, making very clear to the audience that this is really Bran anymore. This is this weird. A lot of people call him like Bran 9000 or Bran Bot or and stuff like that. And I think it's cool too. I do like this character change in Bran. So I do agree with you there. Cool. So yeah, now let's talk about Arya. Let's talk about her big return to Winterfell, which I actually liked. Although I think I wasn't a fan of that scene with the guards not letting her in. To me, that it was just like, it was too much of a call. Hey, remember that scene in season 1? You remember? Yeah. And they spent a bit too much time on that, and it didn't seem like this. Seems like those guards were being just unrealistically dumb. But maybe that's me. I don't know.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that little part wasn't necessarily needed. What I thought was interesting, I watched it again, and it's kind of irrelevant, but after Bran's scene, he actually kind of immediately, very quickly looks out of the window, almost like he saw Arya, and like he was just kind of looking in her direction. Then she was looking over Winterfell. I thought that was like an interesting like nod. But yeah, I don't know. The beginning scene was okay. I agree. The guards were kind of unnecessary. But then we got to look at her quick dodge, which I thought was pretty sweet. It was like the introduction to that little fight scene, which I thought was really awesome. And then, yeah, the scene went in the crypts, which I liked a lot more. Yeah, I thought it was nice.
Yeah, because that was one of those long time coming, how are they going to react to each other, Sansa and Arya things, which it kind of went, about as well as I thought. I mean, they both basically, it could be summed up in, I miss Dad, and wow, you've been through some crazy stuff. Yep, me too. Well, hey, nice to see each other. So there was that. This is tough because I think I don't like Arya nearly as much as the average Game of Thrones fan. I think she's fine. I like her, but particularly with the fight scene with Brienne when she came up, and everyone's like, "Well, I guess we know who the biggest badass in all Westeros is," and I go, "Okay, pump the brakes, son." If she's doing assassin's work, obviously she's very capable at that, and if they had met in an open, in a regular confrontation, she probably would have killed Brienne because Brienne highly underestimated her. But I'm like, all right, if Brienne had actually taken it seriously, I feel more confident about Brienne than Arya. I just want to say that. So I've talked about this, and people have gone back and forth with me. They're like, well, Arya could have killed her like 3 times before Brienne got one in. Sort of. Arya was also using a sword that can only stab, basically. You can't even really... Oh. I think Brienne would have done better. But it was good to see that so they can finally display how important she is and how useful she is to the fight to come and the strength of House Stark. And I thought that particular scene, like when you saw Sansa and Littlefinger looking above, Sansa looked really like bummed out. And I think it's because Sansa, and this is my personal opinion, I think it's because Sansa realized that she's like the most worthless Stark by far right now. When she's like, oh, damn, my little sister's so good at fighting. Jon is freaking king of the North and he's fought ice zombies. And then you have Bran, who apparently can see, he's like Santa Claus. He can see everything everyone's doing. And I got nothing. I can tell people what to do at this castle, and that's about it. So yeah, Arya coming back is just loading up how the Starks are strong once again, and I don't know. That's the summary of my thought.
I don't know. Like, I'm one of those people who's totally on Team Arya. I was to watch that fight thing, and I was one of the people saying, she's the best fighter in Westeros now. So I don't know. But I do get your point, and I do think, yeah, you're right. Do need to sort of pump the brakes a bit, but I just can't help but get caught up in all the hype. But it was cool. Like, I did really love that fight scene, and I thought it was great that Brienne was like, she appreciate that Arya's like, she was smiling, she was having fun, she wasn't like, oh, what are you doing? So she was actually like very happy to see that Arya was this excellent fighter and wasn't like offended or her pride wasn't hurt or anything like that. So I thought that was cool. But as far as like Sansa watching it, like I think more of it was she's just really freaked out about, like, first of all, her brother returns and like he's this weird like robot who can see the future and talking about the night she was raped, and then her little sister comes in and starts joking about a kill list. It's like, oh, that's funny. And the thing is I think Arya was at first like content to just play it off as a joke to Sansa. She wanted her, but then Bran sort of ruined it by talking and bringing it about again. Yeah. So now Sansa's coming to the point where her little sister is also like this huge like badass assassin who apparently killed a lot of people and has it. So I think she's just really freaked out more than anything else. And I do think that there is a conflict coming between the two of them.
Yeah, that would be really interesting. And like when she was fighting and you saw Sansa up on the perch, she did look kind of like not angry, but she had kind of a weird look going on. But I think Sansa could also use Arya as a chess piece. She's like, oh my God, I have this really talented, skilled assassin / fighter. I could use my sister to help push maybe what I want, or, you know, for the best of the Stark name or whatever. And then even Littlefinger was left, like Sansa went in and Littlefinger was left sitting there thinking too. Like, I wonder what he was thinking about. Was he like annoyed that Arya had the dagger, or did he not care? Like what his reaction was to Arya's fighting? I don't know.
That's a good point, man. When you talked about the dagger thing, because like Sansa had mentioned before, you know, Littlefinger's trading something. We didn't know what, but he's trading the dagger for something reasonable. And the fact that it was on Arya's like hip within the day, I mean, that's just a flat out rejection by to Littlefinger's proposal, whatever it is. So there is that. That's something I hadn't thought of at all. So that's awesome.
Like it's like his gift didn't work, kind of a thing.
Yeah, basically, Bran, he said, "Screw this thing." Yeah. Kind of like wiped his butt with it. But I mean, Littlefinger's doing
it's useless on a
essentially. Yeah, well, yeah, not literally. He didn't do it literally, but yeah. So yeah, that was a weird scene. It's hard to. I think it's super hard to interpret the Sansa thing, admittedly, but I don't know. Hopefully, we'll see that come to fruition.
Yeah, I think like the important thing that I think we learned about Bran is that he can see like everything that's happening. He can see everything in the past, but he can't see the future, apparently. Like he couldn't tell Arya was going to go to Winterfell and not King's Landing, but he saw her at the crossroad there. So I think like it's the same, it can be translated to Littlefinger. Like he can see what Littlefinger's done and he can sort of see what he's kind of doing, but he doesn't know what exactly his schemes are and what he's planning for the future. Mm-hmm. And I actually think that Bran knows a lot more about Littlefinger than he's letting on, just because he's a robot who doesn't really care. Yeah. I think he could tell Arya that, hey, this is the guy who basically got our father killed. And Arya would go straight to killing him.
Yeah. It's just that he's not even Bran anymore. He doesn't even care. And another interesting thing I want to talk about, when Littlefinger was actually watching Arya fight, and I watched it again, you hear crows in the background, like they were caged behind him. So it's like Bran is literally behind him watching him. So I thought that was really an interesting kind of a nod.
You know, that's actually, I've heard that interpreted a different way, but I believe yours more than that. The other way is once, like, because this was not long after, you know, Bran said chaos is a ladder. People are like, well, he was near the Ravens' cookery or whatever. I don't even know what they're called, where the Ravens are kept. And so like, oh, well, he may have been there, you know, about to send off a message to someone to deal with the Bran situation or something. Maybe, I doubt it. I think he just happened to be there looking. And if that's the case, that's awesome because it's true. Yeah. Bran is basically on his back if he wants to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, that's all I got for Arya. Unfortunately, am I going to be so excited when she dies? I'm going to be really happy. I just don't care for it. Like, who Arya? Like, I mean, no. Hold on. I don't want to misinterpret that. As soon as I said it, I was like, oh no, put up the shield. No, I like her as a character, but I guess I don't see her like I get no feeling from her reuniting with like anyone else. Maybe John, and that's great. But like her deal now is she's an assassin. She just kills people. That's all I got now from her. And I don't care too much for that. And I got to tell you, the theory that drives me absolutely bonkers that relates to Arya or people's predictions, I do not believe for 1 second Arya will or should kill Cersei Lannister. If she's the one to do it, I will vomit everywhere. The reason why is because people are like, oh, she should definitely kill Cersei wearing Jaime's face. Jaime's clearly the one that should kill Cersei, but Arya doing it, there's no satisfaction for you as a fan. Like, yeah, a Stark kills a Lannister, and Arya, who's really cool, gets to kill one of the most terrible villains. But like, this is the amount of interaction Cersei and Arya have had in the story. This much. Like, it does not really, like, there's no significance between them other than, you know, she hates Cersei. So if that ever happens, I'll be so upset.
I'm actually one of those people who want to say Arya kill Cersei.
Mark!
I do. Although,
why?
Because she was like the first, like in this episode, she talked about Joffrey being the first on the kill list. But other than Joffrey, like Cersei was the first one. She was the one that initially, like, you know, was involved in killing her father and all this. She saw her up there. I don't know. It seems like she had the most reason to kill Cersei out of anyone on her kill list. So to me, it's like if you look at it as a Kill Bill type kill list, Cersei is Bill, in my opinion. But to be fair, I actually do agree with you to an extent. I do think it would be like, because Cersei's had more interaction with Jaime, would be a lot more powerful. Maybe so a bit poetic. Maybe a bit too telegraphed though, because everyone can see it coming now. But still, that doesn't mean it will be bad.
Well, not right now. My God, Jaime and Cersei are.
Yeah, I know. Well, I would love to see Jaime kill Cersei.
There's some hints there. There's some hints that Jaime's not kind of.
I have a theory about it. A prediction. I'm probably going to be wrong about it, but I have a theory on how it would make sense based off of this episode. But maybe we'll get on that.
We'll get to that later. Right. Yeah, but actually, my ultimate prediction with Arya was that she would attempt to kill Cersei, and like she'd kill the Mountain, and she'd go and be in the room and have a little conversation with her, but then realize that wasn't right for her, and then she would fuck off and leave Jaime to kill her. Which I think that would be cool if something like that happened. But yeah. I think I had something else to say. Oh, yes, about Arya. The thing about Arya, before we move on, that I think was interesting in this episode was not the contrast, but the similarities between her and Bran. How they both become like sort of these non-feeling, people. Like we saw this more when Arya was interacting with Hot Pie. It's like she forgot how to be sociable. She forgot how to be a person, and she was just sort of relearning it. And here you see her smile and giggling with Sansa, but you still get the feeling that she's kind of just like, I don't know, kind of relearning what it's like to be a young girl, or sort of almost like pretending, and that they're actually, Bran and Arya both like become these sort of non-feeling machine type things. So that I think that's a really interesting dynamic. It's going to be interesting to play off of.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. And like, yeah, it's great with Arya. She chose to come to Winterfell, so we may see that arc with her becoming more, she's becoming herself again. And like, yeah, all the Stark kids are like crazy damaged, especially Arya and Bran. I did notice they're very different, like socially. They've changed a lot. So yeah, it's very, very interesting.
It's true.
And Jon died, and he's still the same.
Yeah, pretty much.
Really hope to see a Jon and Arya reunion, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Hey, make it in next episode.
So, any last thoughts on Winterfell before we move on?
I wish Tormund was still there.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. I miss seeing the Hound and Tormund and like all those secondary characters, but we're not following them because they're not grounded by like, a more primary character. But yeah, Winterfell overall, I thought I loved it. Tormund, honestly, is one of my favorite characters, so I do miss him. But I love seeing all the Stark kids together finally, and I thought they did a really good job. Like when they're kind of going through the garden, and you have Littlefinger watching them, and you have Brienne and Pod watching them. I think it was just a really good time to see all of them together, and you got to see all the characters kind of do that too. Like it's not being sped along. I think they really took their time with it, and I enjoyed it overall.
Agreed.
Cool.
I think it's good.
Cool. So yeah, let's go ahead and move over to Dragonstone and talk about the little hieroglyphics that John saw in the cave. I heard a lot of people joking that John had to like the crayons out a couple hours before.
That's what I said. It's coincidence. Every time Danny had something, he could just magically counter it. It's like, oh, we're standing here where they stood. And he's like, oh, they were together. I was like, what? And then, oh, they're probably fighting each other, though. Nope. Look at that one. Look at that wall right now. That's the answer. John knows. Yeah. John magically knows where all of these answers are that she brings up. He prepared. He knows. He was in there with a hammer and chisel.
Well, I think it's funny to joke about, but I think it's clear that he actually found it there from the Children of the Forest. And if I heard like some people who know a lot about like real life, like cave drawings and stuff like that, and they were saying that the production team actually based it off of those, and that's kind of what it looks like. Some people were saying, "Oh, that looks a bit childish," but that's really kind of based off of history. So I thought that was pretty cool. Although it did make me wonder, like, just because they existed thousands of years ago doesn't really mean that they are a threat and they exist now. So I'm not sure if Daenerys is still 100% convinced, but I think she's getting there.
Most definitely, I think she's getting there because Braun. Hold on, what am I talking about? I'm excited to talk about the action scene.
Yeah.
John kept like keeps talking about the White Walkers, and then there's the proof. And this scene, I guess, confirmed what everyone knew. Like you see, it proves that the White Walkers are kind of copying the culture of the Children of the Forest. They're using spirals with bodies. They're creating these symbols of meaning, and that connects directly with the children. And we saw it in season 6 with the Children of the Forest creating the Night King, the weirwood trees surrounded in that spiral. So I just wonder if the show is going to explore what those symbols mean. I think it shows in depth, like the White Walkers as a society, like they're more than just a weapon of mass destruction, because they're creating these symbols and it obviously means something. And there's something amazing that I read online, how a couple episodes ago, Sam was looking at kind of arrowheads and dragon glass, and the Hound was talking about in episode 1 how we saw an arrowhead in the flames. If you look at the Night King and you look at the White Walkers, they're wearing an arrow, kind of a chest design. So that's almost an inside look at possibly their culture. So I think seeing the symbols was awesome, and I think it kind of brings more to the lore, which I liked.
No, that is pretty awesome. I mean, this all ties into the probably the most overarching question for the whole series, which is, what do they want? Is it they just want to destroy? But that seems too simple. Everybody has a motivation behind destroying, typically, other than like a virus. Virus sucks up everything, but I'm not sure the White Walkers necessarily are, because like you said, they have a culture. So I'm highly curious. The symbol wise, I don't know, but they left him behind for a reason. And like when they would like kill a bunch of people and then make the body parts go into like a certain spiral, or I don't even know what it looks like, the iota symbol or something. So I admit I have no idea on how to interpret those, but they got to mean something. The show has to explore it, I hope. I really think they have to. Otherwise, it just seems silly.
I don't know. Like, I don't know if you guys, I know you haven't, Max, but I don't know if you guys ever watched Lost, because this reminds me of Lost, because they introduced all these weird hieroglyphics that explored like the mystery of the island, but they never actually answered it or what it was for. It was just there to add sort of character to the backstory. And I think it's kind of the same here, and I wouldn't be disappointed if it was the same here. If this is just to add like character to this history. I don't know. I think we need to get a little bit more of the White Walkers, but I don't expect this to be fully explored. And I actually think, I always look at them as sort of this weapon of mass destruction that got out of hand. That they're not really like their own culture race. They're just more of like this sort of, I don't know, like weapon of destruction. Because even that, like Dan and Davis said that we'll never hear the Night King speak. So that's just how I look at it.
See, I have to disagree. Just on the fact of the character you just used. They have a king. I think that's a sign of culture right there.
You see, they only travel in packs of 4 when they're attacking. The Night King wears like a commanding outfit. They send only one White Walker without clothing to pick up one of Craster's babies. Like, it seems like they have some kind of a structure to their means. So I just found that like really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, but you could say that could be like an animalistic culture. You could say like with wolves, they travel in packs, or bees have queens and stuff like that.
But they're more. Well, we know they're more sophisticated than that, though. I mean, just based off of timing alone.
His interaction with Bran, yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, there might be more than that, but I don't know. I just have a feeling that they won't be explored as like a huge like culture with history and like laws and social, like all this stuff.
Yeah. I definitely don't think it'll be that crazy. But like the way I think about it is the Night King was human. And, now he's been more of a White Walker than he has been human. He's almost a whole different race now. And then that, like, if they do explore it, he may have certain abilities. He can possibly green see. He can possibly warg. When he resurrects people, you could argue that their eyes turn blue because he's actually warging into the dead. And Bran has the ability to warg into the living. So I think there's a lot that they could potentially explore there, but they're not going to follow the Night King as a character. Like, it's not going to happen. So. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how much we learn about them.
Totally agreed.
Yeah, I think it's a bit different than warging. It's like necromancy, but I do see your point. It's like kind of along the same lines that he's controlling them. Well, let's get back to Jon and Dany and how, because I was saying like Daenerys is actually because I had a lot of criticism the way she behaved in the last episode, and I was saying that she was a lot smarter in this episode by like, actually sort of cozying up to Jon, being like, I see your point, you're right, and I will fight for you, but you need to bend the knee. And I think that's smart. I think that was a much better way to approach him. And it was interesting. And we got, like, I thought it was kind of dumb for her to say that he was letting his pride get in the way when clearly he isn't. But that was like a nice callback to the whole Mance Rayder thing. It was like when he was saying, don't let your pride. And in fact, I expected Jon to say, fuck pride, just like Mance Rayder did, but I guess he was being a bit more nice. But so I don't know. Like, I think the foreshadowing of those two getting together is becoming a bit too obvious for me. It's kind of bothering me a little bit. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on this, Kevin?
I was gonna say, I have an interjection here, Mark. I think he is letting his pride get in the way, sort of, or maybe rather his role is getting in the way. I think Tyrion said it best when they first met. Like, if you all really have the same goals, what's the difference? Just bend the knee. It's because you don't want to physically bend your knee. Like, you're literally going to fight together. Do you agree Cersei should be on the Iron Throne? Do you agree that ice zombies should be taking over Westeros? They both agree on those factors, and they could be together. But Jon keeps saying I have to do what's best for my people, and they elected me. You're going to have the same end. But he's unwilling to do the physical act of bending the knee because it'd be like betraying the trust they put in him. But I think that's the same thing as Mance, essentially.
Well, it is the same thing as Mance. And Mance wasn't his pride. Mance even said, fuck pride. It has nothing to do with pride. And it's the same with Jon. It doesn't have to do with pride. It has to do with he's worried. His position is very tenuous, and he's worried about that for one thing. But I think the main point is he just met Daenerys. He's not sure if bending the knee is the right thing to do, if it's going to be the right thing with the people, because if he bent the knee, that means he would be under her command. So if he commanded, she'd send all of his troops down south to fight Cersei, then he'd be fucked, and that'd be taking away for his main purpose. So I think he needs to have assurances that she will, like, bending the knee will be helpful in order to the ultimate battle for the White Walkers, which is all he's concerned about at the moment. So I think it has more to do with that and less to do with pride. And also, on the other hand, like, Daenerys could also, you're talking about how they need each other, but Daenerys could also, like, bend a little way to him because she gave, like I talked about this before, she gave Yara independence of the Iron Islands, yet she's so rigid about not doing that with Jon. A lot of people make good points. North is a much bigger kingdom and all that, and I think they're good points, but she's also being rigid on her side. So I think what's going to happen is that the two need to come together and need to meet. Now, whether that means she'll grant him independence or that means Jon will bend the knee to her as queen, I'm not sure. I think we all know the real answer is what I alluded to earlier.
Why she definitely left Arya behind.
They make a partnership instead of instead the easy way is to marry and make a partnership.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you, Mark. The whole thing, like Jon was his whole arc. Like he spent time with the wildlings. He learned their perspective. He comes back. Like he learned a lot from the wildlings that they elect their own leader. And he sees Daenerys coming in and saying like, I am this and I'm this and I deserve this. I deserve to rule you and everyone. And Jon may feel like you're not better than me. You don't know what's best for my people. Why should I kneel? And I love their whole interactions this whole series because Daenerys, she is a conqueror. She did that in Essos. Now she's coming here and she needs to, conquer all of Westeros. And she was really hard on Jon, trying to get the upper hand and make him bend the knee, but Jon isn't backing down. So instead of her kind of getting the upper hand, because she's been trying to out alpha him like crazy, where Jon won't budge at all. So they're kind of every interaction they have, they're like equals. And Daenerys can't get the upper hand no matter what she tries to do. And I think that's the first character who's ever faced Daenerys in that way. She's always been able to get the upper hand over somebody, but Jon just will not budge. And I think that's why marriage may have to be a potential thing to do.
And
he's unwilling to subjugate.
But as I said, I don't actually think he would be if he trusted her completely. Like, because he said before he never asked to be king, so I don't think he cares that much about it. And I think if he is assured that her being joining with her will help against fight with the White Walkers, that he wouldn't mind giving up being king. But as I said, I think we're right that the thing that's most likely building to is marriage. But I was also going to say, like, I think their position, we see in this episode, they're actually warming to each other. Like, their relationship is growing. And I think, I almost thought that was a bit too telegraphed.
Yeah, they're a bit flirty. Sparks are flying a bit. I want to know if you guys noticed, there was a new score. A new type of score. It was almost like an original, and it sounded kind of like a Jon and Dany theme, unless it didn't sound anything like Children of the Forest. It almost started kind of like You Know Nothing from, I know the soundtrack's like crazy. It's kind of started like the Ygritte and Jon soundtrack. Like it was a whole new soundtrack. So I thought it was interesting that it could potentially be a soundtrack for those two characters, which could hint at like what goes on in the future.
No, didn't recognize that one bit.
No, I didn't either. That's a good point. I have to watch it again and look out for that.
Yeah.
No, I just
wanted Jon touched Dany's arm.
I know
what's happening. You know what's going down. That's
he's trying to pull a move. Just grab her on, Jon. Just grab her on.
I just wanted to mention in the chat, Don Willie says, Daenerys, I have 15 titles. You only have one. This means you bend the knee.
Well, I don't think that's my God. Like, I have to admit that I hate that people are so hard on Daenerys. Like, I know she's been really strict, but like people are basically, in my opinion, are like, you're being mean to our like constantly favorite characters. Therefore, I do not like you. And it's kind of bugging me. Like, in particular, some people had a problem with how Daenerys handled the fight with like dragons and stuff. This last one, and I was like, wasn't this the plan the whole time for her to come in on a dragon and burn people up? Like, didn't we plan on this? But how she like scolded Tyrion, saying like, I just took 2 major losses. Are you sure that you're really on my side? Because it looks like your family is being helped with your blunders. And I think people have a problem with, like, she's overreacting. She should be pissed. She keeps losing strategically. And some of it's, I mean, it's not anyone's fault, other than, I guess their own for not using dragons, but Tyrion's probably not wrong about that. They're just getting out-commanded by far because all the best commanders are on Cersei's side. They have Randall Tarley, who's probably better than anyone. Then you have Jaime, and even Bronn is better than anyone Cersei has. The best he probably has is maybe Jon, but she doesn't even have Jon. And Tyrion, he did great stuff at Battle of Blackwater, but like Stannis said, it was a trick. So maybe if Jorah shows up, maybe they'll get a little bit more of a command aspect, or she just keeps burning people with dragons. Fine. But She should be pissed. She should be challenging people. Like even Varys. I thought she was a little extra with Varys a couple episodes ago when she like really was going at him. But at the same time, it is kind of hard to blame her because she's like, listen, you could stay here, but if anything happens, I'm killing you. Because you tried to kill me for so many years. I mean, it's hard to blame her.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Kevin, I actually agree totally with you. I totally agree that she does have a right to be pissed with Tyrion. I mean, a lot of people have been saying all along that his plan is stupid, and I totally agree also that Daenerys gets more hate than she deserves. I've made several videos like talking about how she gets too much hate, and like people bring up, oh, she's the mad queen, she's going to be evil, and I don't buy any of this. I don't think she's evil. I think she's a dynamic character who has faults and has strengths, and I personally thought the way she treated Jon was a fault, but I think, and on the other hand, like some of this other stuff, freeing slaves, is she has a good heart. Her heart's in the right place. And I totally agree that she kind of took Lady Olenna's words that she needs to be the dragon, she needs to show strength, and I think that's absolutely right. And I think, and I talked about this a bit in my video a bit with Tyrion, is that I think subconsciously he was holding back because he didn't want to see Lannisters get killed. He might not have been aware of that. He still wants Daenerys to win, but ultimately I think that's why his plans weren't working, because he wasn't willing to go full tilt, which is, I think, was definitely what was required.
Yes. I agree. I don't know, and I'm seeing some messages in here, like in the chat right now, saying like, well, Cersei is, basically not Cersei. Daenerys is basically useless without her dragons. I don't think I've read that a lot too. It's like, man, if she didn't have dragons, she wouldn't be important. Well, Marjorie wouldn't be important if her last name wasn't Tyrell. I mean, there's like a million people in the story that wouldn't be important if they didn't have something they couldn't control with them. But Daenerys, you could argue, maybe earns her position, like high position, more than many of the other characters we're talking about. I mean, Tyrion was. I mean, they said it a million times. Daenerys was born. She has a famous name, but she's been on the run like her whole life. Tyrion was born into a lucky name. Like all these people, except for Jon. Jon's the only legitimate one, probably, that earned it all. But does that necessarily make him a better leader right now or more OP compared to Dany? I mean, that's not fair.
Well, I mean, we have to remember that Dany won over the devotion of all of the Dothraki, like thousands, hundreds of thousands of Dothraki, without any help of the dragons. No help from the dragons. So, yeah, it's to say she's nothing without the dragons. I totally disagree with that as well.
And technically, although you could argue indirectly it was the dragons, I mean, the same thing with the Unsullied. She said, you all can go, but you can fight with me if you want. And I mean, they stayed because she gave freedom, but technically she wouldn't be able to give freedom if she didn't do that trick with Drogon. But that's so indirect. I don't think you could really use that. I don't know. It just, like, I am not a huge Dany fan. Like Dany, like I think of Dany like I think of Arya. They're like, I appreciate how kind of powerful they are, how cool they are, but what does Daenerys need to do? Does Daenerys need to ride into battle with a sword and like start slashing people for people to really respect her? I mean, she can only work with what she's got. It's not her fault that Euron happens to be the best captain alive right now and ambushed her fleet. It's not her fault that Tyrion, who had actually a brilliant plan, was outsmarted by Jaime, who happened to learn from Robb, who was one of the best commanders we've seen ever. He learned from failing and stuff. I don't think she's making too many missteps. She just happens to be bested. And I have a brilliant thought for her next episode, but I keep talking a whole lot. I want to hear if Max had anything to say.
Totally agree. No, with Daenerys, yeah, I'm not like, I like Daenerys a lot, but she's not like one of my favorite characters by any means. But I do really like her as a character. Her whole journey, I agree. Like, she did it herself. She's where she is because of her, and her dragons did play a role in that. And this season, like, I don't really have any complaints with how she's handled anything. Like with Varys, I don't think she's too hard on Varys, because this is Varys. Her coming to Westeros was one of the first experiences for her where people weren't completely devoted to her. They were devoted to what she could offer them. And she was really picking Varys's brain to make sure that he was loyal. But in that kind of wrote it down to him being there for the people. And she handled that in a great way. Like, if she told him, like, if you feel like I'm treating the people wrongly, then come talk to me about that. And with Jon, I feel like the reason why she got so upfront and upset with Jon is because he traveled all that way to not bend the knee. And from her whole experience, she feels like she, you know, commands that, she deserves that. But Westeros is a totally different beast. And I feel like her one thing is Jon may humble her a bit because, you know, Melisandre read all of her, or Missandei read all of her titles. But what's funny is Jon kind of has the opposing title in every single one of those things. So I think it's really interesting. And later in this episode, she was ready to go into the Red Keep, but then she got talked off the ledge. And I feel like that's her one character flaw, if you would say, that she's very quick and she's very like, hey, if I have to get this done, I'll do it. And that's the one thing I think Tyrion was watching for. He wants her to be, you know, a little bit more democratic, a little bit more civil to keep the people, you know, on her side. And then we'll see if in the next couple episodes, if she can sacrifice that. But I don't think Daenerys is going to be a mad queen. I think it's just a matter of controlling Daenerys enough to where the people don't hate her and she can take the city and all of Westeros in like a nice, effective way.
Red herring, my friend. That Mad Queen thing is all just a giant red herring. Everyone's like, oh, she's going to be like her father. Come on, man. That's not true. I mean, I know Aerys was okay for a long time until, you know, he wasn't. But no, it's not going to happen. Plus she has pretty good advisors around her. Yeah, I think that's nuts. The burning of the Red Keep, I still don't totally disagree with, but I guess he would kind of end up sort of like Cersei in that scenario. But I don't know. I don't know how Dany's losing anything right now. I know she lost a couple of the great houses, but logically, and I understand why the showrunners aren't exploring this, but logically, Dany would have like so many minor houses committed to her cause too. So it wouldn't just be like half the Greyjoys, the Tyrells, the Dornish, which, by the way, for some reason, because the Sand Snakes are gone, the Dornish are just out. I don't know why they're just cut out of the story now. The army still exists.
The show does stuff like that, yeah. I mean, nobody knows who's ruling the Dornish, and I don't think the show's even going to bother to address this.
Oh, they're not going to bother at all.
Yeah, because whoever took over doesn't necessarily want to align with Dany, you know. I think Cersei explained this best when she said she cut off the head of the snake. So by getting rid of the leadership, it kind of leads them in sort of a limbo position. But I reckon, like, once Dany starts kicking ass and taking over the whole continent, that they'll fall in line, whoever took over. But I don't think this will be addressed in any detail or even at all in the show, because the show has a tendency to just push through this and details like that, and that's fine. I have no issue with that. But as far as Daenerys being the Mad Queen, yeah, I totally agree that's crazy talk. But I think we do see elements of that in her character, and we'll see that sort of inner conflict within her. As I said, I think she's not an evil character; she's a dynamic character, and we'll see that sort of that fire in her that does need to be tamed. And I think at the end of this episode, and judging by the previews for next episode, I think next episode as well, we'll see like these fires rage and sort of have to be tamed a bit. But I don't think she's ever going to go full on evil. And I can't believe people are actually saying that they think she's just as bad as Cersei or worse. Some people are taking
it's not even close.
Yeah, exactly.
Not even close.
Some people are even taking Cersei's side over Daenerys. I'm like, what? Really? Like,
she's being very civil with her dragons. She's like, yeah, I think she's being the best that you could be.
She like, absolutely. Gosh, I can't believe people are falling for Cersei's PR smear campaign. Like, it's gotten through the TV screen into people. Like, it's not even close. And Olenna was saying it to Jamie. He's like, I've done terrible things to defend my family, but what she's done, I can't even fathom the things that she's thought of doing. And it's true, because she's just a terrible, awful person. Dany doesn't do that stuff. God forbid she did do something kind of like, kind of vicious. There was a very good point to it. Kind of like with like with the dragon and Marine. It's pretty much, they have a bunch of harpies going around killing innocent people. She's trying to find info. That's like really, really important. Like, she was clearly the good person in that scenario, and she threatened with a dragon.
Totally agree.
So, totally come on. It wasn't like, out of spite, I'm going to put the High Sparrow in power so that they can take down the Tyrells and I can pretend my hands are clean of it. It's not like that. Like, oh my God. Or concocting a scenario where her husband's going to be murdered. Like, it's not even close.
Yeah. Well, we're sort of digressing a bit, getting going tangents, but it's great. I love doing it. We can do this more in the future. But I want to get back a bit to the scene on the beach where Varys, like, you know, gives the news, and then Daenerys, like, turns to Jon and asks for his advice. Now, this is really interesting. And this, again, I think is showing that Daenerys is like warming to Jon and sort of appreciating what he brings to the table. And it was interesting that he sided with Tyrion in the fact that don't attack the Red Keep, but it seemed like the scene cut because they didn't want to tell us beforehand what she was actually doing. But it does make me think that, like, leaning towards is that you still need to show your strength, just not in that way. You need to do it in a different way. And some people were saying, well, how's it any different attacking the Red Keep than the Lannister's army? I think it's hugely different because these are an army. It's a battlefield where you attack like a castle where people live and there's a huge city with tons of, you know, people. It's totally different than going on an open field where there's just an army and just wiping them out. Plus, this army just wiped out one of her greatest allies, and so they deserved it. I think it was a very smart strategical move.
Yeah.
I totally agree. One thing that I was wondering about is when Daenerys was walking, Tyrion said he suggested to her that they bring Grey Worm back and they use his remaining ships to take the Dothraki to the mainland. So does that suggest that those are the only ships that they had, and that Grey Worm returned to Dragonstone and they used his ships to take the Dothraki to Highgarden?
That's what it sounds like.
Because that was the one thing I was kind of iffy about.
Well, sorry, what were you iffy about, Max?
Tyrion said while Daenerys was like walking on the beach, he suggested to her that they summon Grey Worm and the Unsullied back. They use their ships and they take the Dothraki to the mainland.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering, does that mean that Grey Worm is now at Dragonstone because they used his ships to get the Dothraki to Highgarden, or did they just ship them there with the like I imagine?
No, Tyrion said that they have ships to ferry the Dothraki there at Dragonstone. So we have these ships, we can ferry the Dothraki to the mainland, which is what I think would happen. Like the ships that Grey Worm have, they're gone. They're in the ocean.
Euron burnt those up.
So
shit! I can't believe I just forgot that. Yeah, yeah, right.
So Grey Worm was kind of stranded there. So it'll be interesting to see like what Daenerys does with Grey Worm in the future, like what the Unsullied would do, because Jaime was like, oh, they'll be trapped and they'll have to wander back to the continent. But I think in his mind he was thinking we'd have all these Lannister soldiers and we'd be able to fuck them up. But now Daenerys just came and wiped out all those Lannister soldiers. So Grey Worm would basically have free reign all over the continent, and so it'll be interesting.
And Dany's possibly about to add some of those Lannister soldiers to her side.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Based on the preview.
Yeah, and you're getting some concern from Varys, which is something I want to quickly suggest, and I want to see if you guys like agree or disagree. The whole thing with Jon providing Daenerys like advice about not attacking the Red Keep, and you kind of agreed with Tyrion in that way. I was wondering, like Varys, they've really focused in on him, on how he wants to support the person who's best for the people. He doesn't want to blindly follow somebody. And we see that he is showing concern next episode, and he thinks Daenerys is the best option. But, you know, with Daenerys, all of Daenerys' accolades, Jon has almost as many, if not more. And you have Varys is seeing Jon give Daenerys sound advice. He could potentially be able to ride one of her dragons. It could potentially come out that he is a Targaryen. Will Varys decide that Jon is the better candidate for him to support? And will he kind of secretly try and undermine Daenerys and behind the scenes try and get Jon into power? I just wonder if there will be a power struggle there and he'll choose to support like someone else, whether it be Jon, over Daenerys.
I think that Varys wouldn't do that until he can see more, although that was a little more savvy decision-making from Jon. Especially if he finds out that, or if he doesn't know already, which I'm sure he doesn't, if he finds out that Jon was killed by his own people. I know he was right in that scenario, but you're not. I mean, obviously you can't lead if you're dead, and he happened to be raised from the dead. But I think he needs to see one or two things. Like I think he believes that Ned, there's a lot of similar traits between Jon and Ned. They both could serve the realm really well, but not as the person. because they just have a limit of what they're willing to do. Now, I think John's limit is a little further than Ned's. So if he sees one or two more decisions that are like, okay, that was actually pretty savvy. Like, it's not the most popular, but it's going to be long-term the best, at least for those who are in power, and it should like consolidate your power a bit more. So I think he needs one or two more, and then maybe he would, or maybe it just gets solved and, you know, John and Daenerys marry and then Varys is happy totally. I don't know. But what do you think, Mark?
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of tend to agree with you that Varys is sort of not gonna sort of switch sides. I don't know. I just see like, I don't know, and I think the show will sort of rush through this, and not that I'll have an issue with it, but I think that the whole sort of continent is just going to join on Daenerys' side after she like completely wipes out the Lannisters and stuff. And I think they'll kind of speed through this a bit, but I think that basically she's going to win after this episode. That's just my guess. I don't know, maybe not.
Because I just found it so interesting where Varys always said power resides where power resides. Daenerys takes what is hers, whereas Jon, he started as a bastard, and power always comes to him. He doesn't want it. He doesn't take it. It always resides with him. He went from, you know, the member of the Night's Watch, now he's the Lord Commander, and then he becomes King of the North, just because power always comes to him. He never like fights for it. He doesn't think he deserves it. It falls in his lap. And I think that's key for Varys, is like someone who, you know, doesn't have an ego, who has the right name, who has all these things that he was telling Tyrion about in like season 2, 3 or whatever. And nobody even knows that he's a Targaryen. So I think that I think it'd be really cool if they paid that off.
It's true. I mean, you did. I mean, I guess just to fully lay out the quote, he said, "Power resides where people believe it does," and people seem to believe pretty heavily. Like you were literally just saying it. Jon doesn't want all these things, but people give it to him, and there's a reason why they give it to him. It's because they believe that he's a legitimate stud in every way. And I mean, you could argue the same for Daenerys, but that's where people do have an argument about the dragon thing.
Yeah.
But Jon in particular, I think, exemplifies that. Like, there's a reason why this guy keeps getting chosen. Like, 1,000,000 to 1 odds, he always gets it. Like, even Lord Commander, there's no reason why he should have legitimately been the Lord Commander based off of logic and the politics of the wall. He shouldn't have gotten it. And then from there, being King of the North, he had no claim really to the throne of that, or the throne. So once again, it was handed to him when it shouldn't have been handed to him. So yes, I think what you just said is actually like crazy astute. The idea that, you know, power resides where people believe it is, and they believe in Jon Snow.
Yeah, I mean, that's something I've been saying for a while. I think I love that quote. I think that quote explains the entire show. That it doesn't matter what your birthright is, doesn't matter lineage or anything like that. So I think if Dany is going to sort of win on those terms, she has to win on those terms. That by winning the people by her own merits, not by her family name. Which is why I had such an issue with the way she treated Jon, because she was just throwing her name around like she was entitled to it. But you're not really. It's what you bring to the table, and I think she is softening to Jon. And I think Jon brings that you know, mentality to it.
Yeah, and I think that can explain Tyrion's like kind of a more civil, diplomatic approach. Is that, you know, be more kind to the people, try and get them on her side, because power does, you know, reside where it does. So yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny to think how like just absolutely miserable Daenerys has been this season, and how miserable Jon is always, and having them as a couple. You wonder if two negatives can make a positive somehow. But my God, I can never see happiness in those two.
Cool. All right. So, yeah, I want to get to the scene where we see Davos and Jon talking, because this is like the biggest sort of nudge, hint, when Davos is like sort of bro talking, like, oh, I saw you staring at her, good heart. So it seems like they were really playing up that there's going to be this thing going. But then what was more interesting is when they talked to Missandei, and this is, again, Jon warming up to Daenerys, where, you know, because he's like, oh, you really believe that she'd let you go back, that you're just not a slave under her? And she was like, right out, no, I know that she wouldn't. And so I think he was convinced here by Missandei, and I think they are both starting to warm up to each other. And again, this is like, I think, pretty obvious foreshadowing of what's going on. I know we already touched a bit about this, but do you have any thoughts on this scene in particular?
I honestly no. I mean, I thought it was pretty. I thought it was pretty obvious, like you had just said. It was explaining who Danny is. I mean, because one of my favorite moments of the season still was just that one little part in the conversation when Danny and Jon first met, and when Tyrion said, you know, what's the difference? Just bend the knee. And then when Jon goes, why would I do that? No disrespect. I don't know you. I don't know what you've done. Things like that. And Missandei helps explain that a bit here. Why people believe in her. Why she's important, just like how Jon got his importance, So I thought it was good for that, but otherwise, I don't know. I think there's so many other cool moments in the episode. It like took a total backseat to me.
Well, see, a lot of people, I've been seeing, someone in the chat says this, the fewer joke. Like, a lot of people are latching on to that running fewer joke.
I mean, it was good, but I don't know.
It was okay. I personally don't. Yeah, like I personally don't like grammar Nazis, so maybe I'm not the best judge, but I think it's a funny joke.
The scene. I like the scene. It was good. It's just like with Davos, like I always thought of him as just kind of like a side character, like never really thought about him that much, but I'm actually really starting to like him. The Missandei part I thought was great because Jon saw a certain side of Daenerys, and now he gets to learn about her really good positive side. So that too is really important. But yeah, that's about it that I have to say about that scene. It was a good scene.
It is so great though. Thinking of the fewer thing, it really is like Stannis never left. My God, you have a monarch on Dragonstone who only like the only sentence that they know is bend the knee or be destroyed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God, the Manus never left. Yeah, I love Dragonstone. It's like what a kook. But that's it. Right. Yeah, sorry, that's it.
Yeah. No, it's all good. So let's talk about Theon showing up and his little bit with Jon. So I don't know. Like I guess Jon's reaction is a bit understandable, but really I thought him saying, "Oh, I'd kill you if it wasn't for what you do for Sansa." That's posturing. He wouldn't actually kill Theon, and if he did, that would be the dumbest thing ever because he's one of Daenerys' allies. He's a guest at Daenerys on her island. You're not going to kill the allies. In fact, I was kind of expecting Missandei to step in and be like, "Wait, stop roughing this guy up. He's one of our allies." But I don't know. I think that scene was just more there to give like the audience sort of closure on that Jon was dead. And I think you did kind of need that because you needed to acknowledge that he burned down their home. Now, a lot of people were questioning whether or not Jon knows that Theon didn't kill Bran and Rickon, but it's established that he does know because, he knows obviously that Rickon was alive because he saw him die. And with Bran, Sam told him that Bran was alive and he saw him going north of the law. So he knew that they were both alive, but still it doesn't negate the fact that he took over their home and forced his brothers from their home and killed a lot of other people there. So he's still going to be pissed. And so I do think, even though it may not make the most logical sense, I think it was the payoff we needed for that.
Yeah, and he really distracted Robb from fighting the war. But yeah, the interaction I thought was good. And with Jon, I feel like he honestly is one of those characters where he would kill Theon if he didn't save Sansa because he doesn't care. He just doesn't think about that stuff. Like Daenerys would come back and be like, "What the fuck?" And he'd be like, "Oh, sorry, I passed a sentence and I swung the sword." Like he's fucking dead.
Yeah.
Like I just feel like that's something that he would do. One thing that I found interesting that I didn't even notice the first watch through is Theon says that the reason he came back is because he wants to rescue Yara. He wanted to talk to Daenerys about it. So I don't know if that's going to go anywhere. I don't know where Theon's going to go next from here. I have absolutely no idea. I don't know if he could take on the mantle of being a ruler of his people. But yeah, overall, very good scene. Have no idea what will happen to Euron. Do you guys have any ideas? Or Theon, sorry.
Theon's a tough one, man. I really don't know. I mean, he's got it, like you just said with the mantle thing. He's got to take that mantle. I mean, Yara is as good as gone, and good. We don't need her. She's not important. It really frustrates me because now that obviously we know this, all of our problems would have, Daenerys' problems would have been pretty much solved if she had to use the dragons in the beginning. But like, I'm just dying for a dragon to just start burning up Euron ships. Like, it's over once dragons start burning them up. So if Theon like somehow goes there and like rolling with Danny on a dragon or something. Probably not going to get Yara back, and Euron will probably escape, but that'll make a pretty big dent. And Theon will start to be considered probably a leader in the Iron Islands, because they always say, you know, you got to pay the iron price. Basically, you got to earn it. And if he can somehow end up outlasting Euron, that's great. But he's ultimately got a redemptive arc. He has to die, saving someone, probably a Stark. So I don't know how it's going to come to that, but I guess they're going to try this rescue thing. Unless they get sent a body part or something of Yara's, and it's hopeless.
Yeah, well, I think what you said, Max, about with Theon not really being a leader, I think that's why he wants to get Yara back. That's his first order of business, because I can't be a leader. I need Yara back so she can lead. And it does seem like he is kind of the other Ironborn, even though they think he's a coward. It seems like since he's the de facto prince that they sort of have to sort of follow along him, or those who detracted from Euron anyway. So I don't know. Like, I think his redemptive arc, or his arc, could go in several different ways, Kevin, because that is an interesting point, that he might die sacrificing himself for someone. Although my brother mentioned that he thinks that he needs to be the one, Theon needs to be the one to kill Euron. That's where his arc is heading, even though it's really hard to see a coward doing that. Yeah. But I could kind of see it going that way. And then other people were saying perhaps that he will become join the Night's Watch, because it seems like that might be a good fit for him at this stage. I don't know. Like, I think his storyline's really open. I could see it going in any of these directions.
Yeah, I totally agree.
The killing Euron thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I always thought that, like, he, to me, like, I know obviously he couldn't make any heirs, but like, he seems like a character that at the end of this, if there's nothing left, he could take the mantle of the Iron Islands. Like, he's a character who we've watched pay the iron price through the whole show. He's lost pretty much everything. And I feel like it would be really cool to see him like go through everything he's been through. And he's died. He's experienced so much in his life. To see him kind of come back and take on that mantle of ruling the Iron Islands, I think would be interesting. The whole thing with Yara, I was surprised to see that Euron took her away and didn't leave her with Cersei. So I don't know where she is. I don't know where Euron is. And I don't know if we're going to see her again this season. So, yeah, with that, I have no idea. And I don't know if she'll ever come back.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, Max, because Theon talks about rescuing Yara, but where do they rescue her from? No one really knows where she is at the moment.
I don't know. With Yara, I've seen people speculate with Yara that she's going to be like a member of the crew of the Silence, like going to have her tongue ripped out, and she's going to be forced to work on it. And Euron's basically going to, you know, make it a personal hell in that she has to serve Euron and can't say anything back. And obviously she's going to be trapped there. I mean, she's not going to want to. She may try to get away, but it's not going to work. That may be it. I don't think, like I said before, I don't think Yara goes anywhere, but it does make sense that Theon would have to go back and get her, kind of mirroring her going to get Theon when, you know, he was captured by Ramsay, but ultimately failing, I assume. But I was told by the actor, not me personally, the news, was told by the actor, Pilau, whatever, of Euron. He said this season he was going to make Ramsay look like a puppy dog. I have seen no puppy dog behavior so far.
But also,
and I'm waiting for it.
Also, the actor who plays Yara said that she's a primary character, which it doesn't really seem like that at all.
Yeah, I mean, so, I remember that quote. I think it's possible. I mean, this could be wrong, but I think it's possible that he was just overstating it and overhyping his own character, and he was just referring to the scenes we've already seen with the crazy boat thing, and then him like bringing his prisoners to Cersei, because I do think those were bad. Like, he was a crazy fucking badass in those scenes, like just going around. Ah! I still think saying Ramsay looked like a puppy dog is really overstating it, but I think that was just the actor being a bit, because actors get caught up in their own roles and so tend to overhype things.
And that would be interesting, too, if Yara got so crazy tortured. Interesting idea, like getting her tongue cut out, where if they get her back, they agree that Theon is better suited to rule. After everything he's been through, Yara is so fucked up that Theon's a better choice. So I think that could be something, too. But, yeah, with the Greyjoys, I have nothing. I have no predictions on them. No idea where they'll go. But, yeah.
They're difficult. I assume they're all just going to die and not be important. But, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think that they said that Theon saying "Let's rescue Yara" is going to be paid off in some way or another. Whether that actually be rescuing her or finding out that she's dead or throat cut out or whatever. I think it will be paid off in some way or another. All right, cool. So let's go ahead and move on. Before we get to the battle, I know we're clamoring to get to the battle, but before that, I want to touch a bit about the scene with Cersei in the with the Tycho-Nestoris and the Iron Bank, and we'll touch a bit about the battle because I want to talk mainly about this gold because I thought it was pretty straightforward foreshadowing when we saw the preview for this episode, where we see Tycho-Nestoris going, "Oh yes, you'll have my support as long as I get my gold." So I thought that was very clear foreshadowing that Cersei wouldn't get the gold. But then we get the scene, and right before the battle, Randall Tarley says all the gold is safely behind the walls in King's Landing, and that shocked me. I was like, really? Because I thought that the whole point of this was that she wouldn't get her gold. Now, the question is, how will the Iron Bank react? They have their gold, but the Lannisters are fucked. They're done, and we know that the Iron Bank tend to pick the winning side. So that's the big question about the Iron Bank is, what do you think will happen there? And maybe Cersei won't give them the gold now that all of her supplies and shit are fucked. She might need that gold for herself.
I have a theory.
Okay.
Yeah. This is what I want to perfectly happen. Okay, relating to the gold and like every other part of the Lannister storyline. Here's what I think it satisfies almost everything. Hope now that the gold is in King's Landing, it gets there. This ties into Cersei, or this ties into Daenerys in the aftermath of the battle. This is obviously telling all the Lannisters, join my side or die, basically. I would love it, and I think it solves many problems, if Daenerys ransoms Cersei, Jaime. She lets Jaime know, I'm doing this. She tells Cersei, that gold you got from Highgarden, I want it. If you give me it, you'll get Jaime, your brother, who you love. If you don't, then sorry, he's gonna die. Then it solves a few problems because, well, you know, she may get the gold back, and that means Cersei won't get it. Even though I think that's where the problem too comes in. I don't think there's any chance Cersei gives up that gold, and I think Jaime learns real quick where he stands, and I think that puts a wedge in there where I think Jaime ultimately has to be the one to kill Cersei, and that'll put that wedge really in there because Olenna was like pushing super hard, like, you know, she's a terrible person, right? Like, you need get away. And I don't know how they're close anymore because I thought the Sept of Baelor blowing up was clear that Jaime was tired of her crap, but this could be the final wedge for that. Now, if she does keep the gold, yeah, maybe the Golden Company comes over. Some people have the theory that Gendry's a part of it, and that'll somehow tie in, and you know, it'll go against her somehow, but. Yeah, it does not make sense if she gets the gold and she adds the Golden Company because that makes her really competent against Dany. Because before the season started, everyone just assumed Dany was going to roll over anything Cersei had. But right now, it actually looks like a sporting fight. So that's my quick theory. It doesn't necessarily solve the gold part. But relating to the gold, Dany could really do some pretty awesome work on the Lannister twins if she sends that ransom, or even if she doesn't really do it and they just pretend that they sent it, and like Tyrion goes, yeah, so here's the deal, Jaime, we sent a letter saying we want the gold that you all stole, and she wouldn't give it up. So join our side.
That would be really interesting to see, because I'd love to see the interaction between like Jaime, Tyrion, and like all them. It just begs the question, like, in that situation, would Jaime support Daenerys after all that, or would he not back down at all, which would result in Daenerys killing him? So that's like a couple questions would be awesome with Jaime. I don't know what's going to happen, but in regards to the gold, huge surprise to me that Cersei did get it. I was convinced that she wouldn't get it. And it just showed, like, for me personally, when I was watching it the first time, I think someone was talking and I missed Randall Tarley say that they had the gold in King's Landing. I totally missed that part. And it just shows
I did too. Someone had to tell me on a live stream.
Yeah, and it's like, for me, it showed how fast the show's going now, because in the start of the episode, you see Jaime giving Bronn the gold. And then this whole shit happens. Daenerys is in Dragonstone. She ends up in Highgarden, and in that time, the carriages have made it to King's Landing. So like so much time is happening and I almost missed it. But yeah, the fact that she has the gold now, if you play it straight down the middle and you say that she actually has the gold, that she's not going to lose the gold, and she pays off all her debts to the Iron Bank, I would think that they would support Cersei because she's proven to be able to pay her debts. And I think he wants that. They got a lot of money off the Lannisters, interest payments, and they got the complete payment back. I think after making all that, you think that that's an effect. That's a good client. That's a great client to have. I think they're going to completely back her, give her the fleet, give her the gold, whatever the soldiers are. I forget their names.
Golden Company.
Yeah, and then I go super tinfoil because I try and bring the iron. I try and bring the House in black and white into every single scenario. But I personally, I think it would be sweet. Like I've looked at it both ways, but I think the House of Black and White and Bravos and the Iron Bank, I think they have a crazy connection. They rely on each other for the economy, etc. And it wouldn't surprise me if Tycho Nestoris made it back and said, "Hey, we got this shit ton of money from the Lannisters. We got all of their debts paid, and now we're going nonstop to ensure that Cersei wins." So, hey, if you go to Jack and Nagar and say Daenerys, you say Jon, you got an assassin going for one of them. And that would help ensure Cersei's victory. And that's where Arya can maybe play a role. She knows how they've trained. She knows, you know, that kind of shit. But that's like crazy tinfoil. That's like ridiculous.
I don't think that's that crazy, but I will say the main reason why I wouldn't back that theory is because we only have a certain amount of episodes left. And I think
I keep forgetting about that too.
Yeah. I think the show is going to placate to, because we need to get to the White Walkers. That's the main thing. And I think that's mainly what season 8 is going to be. So I think we're going to have to wrap up this Cersei Daenerys thing. And adding in the Faceless Men, that just seems like padding it out. So I basically think that Cersei is fucked now, and that we're going to see, because this is what I predicted even before the season started, that in the first couple episodes, Cersei would just keep winning and winning and winning. It looked like she's winning. And then we'll get this turning point, which would be this battle where Daenerys is now going to be the one who's winning, and Cersei is just going to keep losing and losing and losing, which is what I think. That's just my wild speculation, but I think that we're going to wrap this up by the end of the season. Next season, we're going to have to move on to the White Walkers. And as far as the Iron Bank goes with, I don't know. Like, I think that's a possibility, Max. I think you bring up good points that if they get their money back, then that's the most important thing to them. But I think, on the other hand, there's still the fact that they like to pick a winner. And they even mentioned this early in the season. And if Daenerys is the clear winner, they're not going to back a loser. Although they did back Stannis, and maybe that will they were
and that's a factor. They've come out of everything, so it's almost like they can't bet against them. I don't know.
But and I wanted to also talk about Kevin, your theory about the ransom, Jamie Ransom. I actually heard that before. I think it was from watching your channel. And when I first heard that,
good. I was like, hey, I'm the only person I know that thought of this. If someone else did, I would have freaked. It was like, you can't do anything original in this community.
Well, I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure it was from your channel. But yeah, and then when I first heard that, I was like, yeah, I think that is a good theory. Now, I'm not 100% that would happen, but I think it's a good theory. It would certainly be interesting, and it makes a lot of sense in the standpoint of, Jamie is going to sour towards Cersei, and that would really sour him if he knows that she could save his life, but she refuses not to for her own lust of power. And whether it happens in this case or another case, I do think it's her lust for power winning out over her love for him is what's going to push them apart and make him realize that Cersei's no good. I am not 100% that Daenerys has Jamie as a captive, but maybe she does. I'm sort of open to it either way.
Yeah. And just overall, like looking at Cersei, like she's gotten the upper hand like most of the time. She has the gold. So Daenerys did get that victory, but she has the gold. She just needs a bit of time to get her resources and everything in place if they invest in her again. So that raises the question, like, hey, Cersei could die this season, she could die next season, she could live throughout the whole series, but in order for her to win this war, she needs to kind of make it last to get those resources. So like maybe the White Walkers come down and that's a distraction. Maybe something distracts the war effort between Daenerys and Cersei, because I think if it keeps going at this pace, then Daenerys will win. So Cersei's going to want to kind of get things, just kind of stretch things out.
I don't know, I'm just He's got to come back up at some point. I think he's going to get captured personally. It would suck if they put Tyrion and Jaime so close to each other and then they separate them again. Because I don't know when Tyrion would see Jaime, you know, ever, or vice versa, for a long while. At least till next season, I guess.
Well, we know the show loves to do that. Brings two characters close together, and then
like Bran and Jon.
Yeah,
years ago. I don't know. I'm just so excited about the idea of Tyrion and Jaime talk, especially since you would think Jaime would be really mad at Tyrion for killing Tywin, still, because he didn't know he was going to do that. But
Jaime does know now that he didn't kill Joffrey, which might put everything in perspective because he knows that Tywin.
I think he always knew that.
I don't know. Like, he suspected it, but he knows it for certain now. So he knows that Tywin. I think maybe after he killed Tywin, he probably might have doubted it. He might have thought maybe he did kill Joffrey because he wouldn't have killed my father. But I think now, like, he knows for certain that Tywin actually was trying to kill him for a crime he didn't commit. So he might be able to see Tyrion's perspective. But I think, of course, it's going to be hugely colored by the fact that Tyrion is the hand of the queen to someone who's destroying his whole land. So, yeah, there's definitely not going to be best bros. So it would be interesting to see that interaction.
But you wonder if, like, relating to this, you wonder if Dany, again, if Bronn and Jaime get, or get captured, is Dany going to make an example of Bronn for shooting at Drogon? Like, that's I mean, I like, particularly because it's like, she said it a million times. These are my children. You shot my children with your giant scorpion. Okay. So I wonder, I don't think so, but because all I can think about is the conflict that would arise between, with Tyrion having Jaime and Bronn as captives. Like, that's why I think it's too sweet to not let them interact together, because that is just so brilliant and awkward what they can do with that. So if they don't have them interact, that's gonna be difficult, especially with Bronn, like Jaime being the main commander and Bronn being the main one who almost killed her dragon and her. Well, Jaime too. Jaime almost killed her too. But if they let it go, I'm gonna be pissed. That's a ripe opportunity.
All right. Well, okay. So there's one more thing I want to get about in this Cersei Iron Bank scene before we go full on into the battle, and that is I wanted to mention, like, when Cersei said that she had a nice, interesting line that her next venture was getting control of the whole continent, and that she would have, she wanted to hire the Golden Company to get back what was hers. Now, there's been some question, speculation on what she meant by what was hers. Like, is she talking about some, like, artifacts, some golden medallions? But I think it was very clear she was talking about rule of the Seven Kingdoms, most specifically the North, because at this point she's already defeated the Iron Island rebellion there. She's defeated Dorne, she's defeated Highgarden, and so in her mind Daenerys is all but defeated. So she's looking at the North as the last sort of kingdom that is in rebellion. So it seemed to me that she was talking about sending the Golden Company north, because in the season 1 she was talking to Joffrey and saying it's not practical to send our southern soldiers north because they have no experience in fighting in the winter and they get their asses kicked. So that's why I think she was thinking about hiring, like, foreign soldiers and sellswords to take care of that for her. And that was sort of my read on it. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, with rule, I'm sure that she wanted rule over the whole continent and the people. She just wants to gain control over Westeros again. I didn't even think about, her sending it north. Like, I know she's had victories in Highgarden and Dorne, but Daenerys still has 3 dragons, and she still has, some of her army. So I think the way I read it was just continuing to try and win this war against Daenerys. I don't really know if she's really concerned. I don't know if she knows if Jon Snow is even in Dragonstone. She knows that he's king of the North, but I don't know if she considers him an immediate threat. I don't know if she knows that Jon is with Daenerys, but I know that she knows that they're her enemy. So it's a matter of priorities, I guess.
Well, I think I just read it as she's looking for the long term. I think she's being really arrogant. In her mind, Dany's done, and she's already defeated, and she's looking for the next step after that, which is in her line about gaining control of the entire continent and everyone on it. And I think that she's looking, because she sent that letter to John and Sansa at the start of the season saying, hey, you need to come bend the knee, and they didn't respond. So she's going to take that as these people need to be dealt with. And Littlefinger and other people are warning Sansa and John, look, we need to worry about Cersei because she's going to come for us.
That would be perfect too, because Sansa said that, you know, she kept pressing Jon in episode 1. Like, there's still a wall between them. Cersei's like ruthless. And I think that would be great. Like, what's the perfect distraction in the North? What if the White Walkers come, they're distracted, Cersei brings up her army. So I think that would be an amazing story arc. I would really like to see that. Yeah, I think that'd be awesome.
Sure. Yeah, I took it as a general taking the Seven Kingdoms. The North, I guess, is probably the most obvious part that she needs to get control over. I mean, if Gendry does return as a member of the Golden Company, that would make a lot of sense to send him north. You know, to link up with like Arya and stuff and have an importance to you know, what's going on beyond the wall. So that makes sense, I guess, if that's the scenario. But also at the same time, I'm thinking, I'm like, I don't know. Like, even though the Lannister soldiers aren't the greatest to go up north, neither are the Golden Company either. I mean, neither is particularly great for that. But I guess because those are people they would hire, it seems better. But I don't know. Yes, but generally, I think it's just to get the Seven Kingdoms. I think that's what that statement's all about.
Well, I mean, the only reason I brought up the Golden Company going north is not so much as that they'd be better fighting in North, more so she doesn't care if they die.
Yeah, they're expendable.
Yeah. But yeah, cool. All right, so yeah, let's go ahead and let's move on and let's talk about this big battle, which we've already touched on a lot, but let's get into more sort of meat detail of what happened here. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is, well, the whole thing with Bronn and Jaime, because a lot of people were sort of questioning Bronn's motives here, because at the start of the scene, the start of the episode, he was like, what was this, just gold? You promised me a castle, which I actually think is a good point, because I mentioned this in my review back in season 5, which I just rewatched. He had a castle, he had a marriage, and then Jaime came and just took it away from him and says, I have something better. And he's yet to give something better, and giving him a big bag of gold is not really better than what he already had. So I think Bronn was sort of right to be sort of pissed off and questioning, like, you need to give me something. And it does kind of show that Bronn actually is now sort of somewhat devoted to Jaime and thinks more than just a payoff, because he lost his bag of gold in the battle. Yeah. And people are saying that he could have just went for that gold and took off, but instead he abandoned the gold and went for the Dragon Killer to help Jaime out. So, and he quite possibly could have died and should have. Mm-hmm. So I think this tells a lot about his character. What were you guys' take on that?
I love that shot. Sorry.
I'm sorry. I'll just say simply, then Max can take over. He simply chose between being a sellsword and a soldier, and he chose soldier.
Wow, well said. Very well said. Yeah, I love the shot. I love the shot of seeing the gold on the ground, and then he just kind of looks at it and then chooses to move on, and then him saving Jaime. He didn't have to do that. I thought it was a great. I love how Jaime was there. He's a primary character, but I loved how we got an action scene that focused on Bronn. I loved how we got a lot with Bronn in this episode. And I thought it was unbelievable. In regards to like Bronn getting what he wants, I think Jaime will end up giving him something. I just wonder if he would stay loyal to Jaime. Like, what if Daenerys comes in and then you have this thing with he had a friendship with Tyrion, he has a friendship with Jaime. Will he choose the losing side? So I just wonder if that will happen to Bronn. I don't know.
So what I think might be a possibility is, since Tyrion and Bronn had this friendship first, maybe Tyrion is going to try to win Bronn over and be like, look, I'll actually give you a fucking castle. I'm not going to dick you around like Jaime was. And he had this talk before about Bronn saying, if someone else offered me a thing, I'll give you the chance first. If you can pay me more, I'll join you. So maybe that will come back into play. Maybe. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here.
That would be cool. I'm conflicted on that, because like we're literally talking about how Bronn may have just changed his character, and then in this idea he may be lured back using his old ways, but like we don't know if this is a total change. I mean, then again, I thought Theon was totally on the rehabilitation arc, but then he jumped into the water when Euron challenged him. So you never know how they're going to handle these things, but that's what I think is so interesting. Man, could you think of Bronn like being like, where do you think Bronn? Okay, let's say after I'm diverging a little bit. Let's say Dany takes over the Seven Kingdoms. Let's pretend none of them have lords anywhere, okay, except for Jon and Winterfell. Where would, like, of the major castles, where do you think is the right fit for Bronn? If
Castle
you're like, all right,
Rock.
Castle
Really?
I don't know if they'd ever give.
Okay.
Well, Tyrion might give him Castle Rock. Jaime and Cersei would never give him Castle Rock.
I think Tyrion would be busy and he'd give it to Bronn or something like that. I don't know. I think Bronn's one of those characters who's gonna make it through and he's gonna have his castle at the end of it. I think it's a good story because he started as just a sellsword and he took the right job, and now all of a sudden he would finish with a castle and all that stuff. I just think that would be cool.
Real quick, I want to say this is really funny to hear you say that, Max, because my brother Abkin Tomko does this series of prediction videos ever since season 4. Every single year, he's predicted Bronn to die. Like Bronn's gonna die.
Really?
Season 5, he's gonna die. Season 6, he's gonna die. And so, if he made it to the end, I think that would be very.
That would be so fun.
Yeah, I assume he's gonna die every season. Well, okay, that's not true. This season, I assume he's gonna die. Because I mean, he has effectiveness. I think they like him on the show because he's just so entertaining. But his ultimate purpose, I think he's in the run of the mill like Grey Worm or Torment. Like they may be great, but they got to go because they're just ultimately not that important. But I would love it if he did last that long.
Yeah, I just personally think that every person who would rule a castle won't originate from, or they'll either be a bastard, a cripple, or a broken thing. Like I feel like it's going to be a whole new world, and I think Bronn would be the perfect candidate. He said you wouldn't know my name, and then he ends up having Castle Rock, and I think it'd be cool to have all of these places owned by people who weren't from those huge houses.
But actually, I want to say in the chat, I see Fury gives up an example of a possibility with Castle Bronn would get, and I like it a lot better. The twins. Bronn can get the twins because that's empty now at the moment.
Very true. Very true. But I don't even know if
sorry. I want him to be Lords of the Iron Islands. Because the only problem is he clearly likes being in a place where it's soft and warm, kind of like Stokeworth. Yeah. So maybe he wouldn't be totally down with that, but I could see him fitting into that culture.
Maybe he's the one who will get Harrenhal. I don't know. So another thing I wanted to touch on in this battle is that something I've seen a lot of criticism. I've seen a lot of even people who really like the battle thought, well, I didn't kind of like the fact that no major characters died. They thought it was kind of a cop-out that we sort of need to see, and they thought it was like Bronn coming in saving Jaime at the last moment was a bit too telegraphed. And, they try to leave it as a cliffhanger with Jaime floating in the water, but it's pretty obvious that he's not dead because why? If he was going to die, they might as well have him burned by a dragon. If you're going to have Bronn save him, then he's saved. But a lot of people were complaining about that, saying, well, the battle didn't have any real stakes because no main characters really died. And I actually very strongly disagree. I think that's sort of taking it to a sort of telegraphed place where you have to have a main character to die in a battle in order to make it more emotional. That seems a bit more telegraphed and scripted to me, like in the Watchers for the Wall, Battle at the Wall, which I loved. But when they killed off Gren, it kind of felt like, well, we need someone to die, so let's kill off Gren. Where I actually thought it would have been better if Gren was still alive in the other season, so it kind of sucked not having him there, but they just wanted to give the battle more stakes. And I think you don't need to kill off a main character in order to give the battle stakes, because you see tons of Lannisters roasting alive and Dothraki slaughtering people. I think that's stakes enough.
Well, yeah, what do you need? The Dothraki were destroying people, and Dany was burning them to hell. I mean, you weren't satisfied enough with that.
And I think when Drogon got shot too, that was a lot too. I thought that was a great shot.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh, the close up on Bronn's face, like, come on, I'm not gonna say that. Come on, you effer, and then shot. And I was like, oh my god, Drogon just got hit in the mouth, but then it was his wing. I went through a roller coaster of emotion. I don't know why I left it like, what?
Yeah, I just think I would have loved it if, the show established a group of Lannisters with Arya in the first episode. I think it would have been awesome if we saw them at the fight. I think that would be so cool to see them die like throughout the fight, because we got to know them with Arya in like the first episode. So I think that would be cool. I don't know. Yeah, I loved it too, but I just think it would be awesome if maybe they used those Lannister soldiers that they introduced, or I wanted Grey Worm to die so bad, just because
What you're saying is you wanted Ed Sheeran to be burned alive by a dragon. Is that what you're saying?
You're damn right I do. And the main guy too, the guy with the long hair who's like boys don't take care of their papas when they're old. Like that guy. Just them in general. And then Grey Worm, I kept saying that I thought Grey Worm would die, but he didn't even end up there. So, I think the battle was perfect for what it was. The Unsullied weren't there, and I think it was great, yeah.
I still think Grey Worm's going to die, though. You don't have show him getting on with Missandei and have this big build-up.
I agree, but I'm trying to think of when. Like, I feel like the show's wrapping up, so, like, I feel like this season it won't happen. And I thought he would die because I can't picture what he's useful for other than like he rules the Unsullied, but I think that would be a good,
you're right.
Be a good thing to do, but
he'll probably die at some random upcoming battle or something. I mean, we probably have something. I mean, you all talked about it earlier. Tyrion's proposing bringing him back. Maybe they do march back and they get ambushed or something. It could be anything, but I'm pretty sure he's going down too.
Mm-hmm.
Ian Renfer in the chat says Grey Worm would die off screen. That would suck.
Yeah. No.
That would be so
He's not dying off screen. Come on.
Oh, man. Yeah, so, I want to talk, we touched on this a bit, but I want to get more into, like, Tyrion sitting on the sidelines watching the Lannisters bodyverse. I really loved the scene. A lot of people, actually, I've heard a lot of praise for this, that it gives the battle emotional stakes as not just action for action's sakes. You see the emotional toll that Tyrion is sort of split between two worlds, where I do believe that he wants Daenerys to win, but actually seeing the carnage firsthand. And some people even harking it back to the line he gave to, like, one of the Masters last season, where he said something like, killing is all abstract, killing, other people dying, but when, seeing it firsthand is something totally different. So I thought that really did raise the stakes for Tyrion. So yeah. Any thoughts on that?
I loved it. You see, he is really emotional. You see his whole house getting just decimated. And it's both ways. He's worried on both sides. He sees Daenerys get shot down. I think he was convinced that she was going to die. And then when he kept telling Jaime, you fucking idiot, turn around, you turn around. It's like he doesn't want either scenario to happen. He doesn't want Jaime to throw the stick and kill Daenerys, and he doesn't want Daenerys to burn her brother. So it's like it's the worst case in both situations. Mm. And I think it was great. And I think we're going to see even more next episode of Tyrion in that environment, not being comfortable seeing what's happening, but he's going to have to because he supports Daenerys.
That's why I love the idea. I agree with that. That's why I love the idea of him being Jaime and Bronn being captured, because he has to confront it even more. If they get to go away, then fine. He just had an episode during the battle, but I want that episode to be strung out. I want to see how Tyrion reacts when Dany, who does not have this personal relationship, in fact, she has every reason to hate these two in particular right now. One for shooting Drogon, the other one for trying to joust her to death. I want to see his reaction when she basically wants to punish them accordingly. Yeah. It's gonna be so intriguing.
Yeah, I think it'd be awesome because she would have to punish Bronn in a way, and he's stuck between both, and I think that'd be really awesome to see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. That you talked about the scene where he said, flee, you fucking idiot. I think that was absolutely perfect because I saw that more if he knew that was really dumb on Jaime's part, that Jaime would most likely die from that. It's what are you doing, you fucking idiot? Run the other way. And for Jaime's part, I actually do think that even though I totally disagree with this Mad Queen bullshit, but I think I can see from his perspective, as far as he knows, this is the Mad King's daughter, and she's just as bad because she sees him burning people alive with the dragons.
Yeah.
And so I think in his mind, just as he stabbed the Mad King in the back, he needs to he saw an opportunity to stab her in the back. So he was going to go all out and take it.
And I think they really put throughout the whole fight scene, they really kind of put that home that, Jaime sees her as dangerous because they show all these people on fire and Jaime's looking at them he's actually upset because he's seeing all of his people burn alive. And then yeah, like he feels like he has to kill her because she's extremely dangerous. So I think they did an excellent job showing that. And the one take that they did with Braun throughout the whole thing, I remember before the show,
God, yes.
I thought it was unbelievable. And I'm glad that they did it. I was afraid because Battle of the Bastards, to me, I love the one shot with John. And I think that's the best way to film cinema, just a one shot of what's going on. And I think they nailed it with Braun. And I love following them. You see like the chaos of everything that's going on. And it was funny. It's exactly what I wanted, because I wanted to see, before this show aired, I was talking about what I wanted. And like, I really wanted to see the ground perspective of Daenerys. Like, we got to see her on her dragon and stuff, but I want to see the ground floor of what it actually looks like to have this person in a dragon flying above you. And they nailed it with Braun.
Absolutely. And I'd even go as far as to say, like, that scene, that take, I think was even up the ante from the Battle of the Bastards one.
Yeah, with the fire and the smoke. Oh.
Yeah, just for like cinematography alone and everything, and just the dragons flying overhead and just the chaos involved. It seemed like it was a more like kinetic shot, like more handheld as well than the previous one, which I think really added to the chaos. Although it avoided the shaky cam, which I freaking hate, but so it wasn't that bad. But yeah, it was more kinetic. Yeah, I think it was awesome. Yeah.
I tend to agree. I mean, I thought it was a really awesome one. I admittedly though, I'm not a huge fan of the Battle of the Bastards. Like, it was good, but a lot of people have it like automatic #1 best battle. I actually really, although it was shorter and not as long, I love the Greyjoy battle just cinematically.
Really?
Oh yeah, I love it.
I like hearing that actually. That's that's really good to hear, because I didn't feel that way initially.
Well, I think that battle is underrated though.
Yeah,
the Greyjoy one.
Yeah, a lot of people really put it to the back burner, but it's probably the most unique setting of all the ones we've had so far. I mean, Euron was awesome. I didn't care for the stuff below deck; that didn't matter to me. Like Tyene, I didn't care about that. But it was just quick. There was the burning ash all around. There was fireballs randomly shooting, and like the Greyjoy battle maybe like my second favorite, and the first is this one. But Battle of the Bastards is like 3 to me. Like I don't know. I think just because it's longer doesn't mean necessarily better. I mean, I'm sure I like some of the parts where like Tormund, well, that one long shot, like you just said, Max, about with John. And I like Tormund and Small John, you know, like going at each other. But that was okay. I mean, it turned into a knockout, drag out fight. But whereas the Greyjoy one, I don't know. I just love the ferociousness and the setting, I think, so much more. And this one, obviously, because the dragon, you know, and Braun and Jaime. Well, everyone loves Braun, but that stupid scorpion. I hate the scorpion idea. Truthfully, I think it's really lame. But I don't know what else they can do to shoot down dragons. So I see its purpose.
Getting back to our trivia knowledge, you know that the scorpion was actually used to kill a dragon in Aegon's Conquest as well. And I was actually disappointed they didn't say that callback in the show. Be like, hey, this successfully killed one of Aegon's 3 dragons, so let's try to use it again. So I think it made a bit of continuity sense from that standpoint. But that being said, I don't think we'll see this again. Like, some other people are saying, well, now what Cersei needs to do is build 40 of those things and line them up together. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that was a one-shot thing, and like that scorpion's done for. And now Daenerys is aware of it as well.
Yeah.
And why is it wooden? Make it metal.
And that comes to another criticism a lot of people are levying at Daenerys. Like, when you see this, you know, scorpion firing bolts at the dragon, why she charged directly at it? It's kind of like the whole Rakan zigzag thing. It's like you're giving it the chance to hit it right on. That was really stupid of her. But I don't know. It doesn't bother me personally. I didn't really see. I can kind of see that point of view that maybe should have like she did with the archers. When the archers were shooting at Drogon, she switched, and so the arrows just bounced harmlessly off him. It seems like she should have done something like that then. But I don't care. It worked for the plot. So I don't really have an issue with it.
No, yeah, it didn't bother me at all. I thought it made sense. Like, I feel like she just tried to rush him. And like with Rickon, it's like, you know, sure, zigzag, but he might have been panicking the fuck out, and he just wants to run and get away. I don't know. That kind of stuff doesn't bother me too much. But yeah, like this action set piece was awesome for me. Like it's funny how like different all of our like perspectives are on different action set pieces. Because like I love this one, and I think it would rank second to Battle of the Bastards. And it's like, and that's what's so funny. Like I think it's hilarious. And then there's people who love Blackwater. Like Mark, don't you love Blackwater?
Oh, I love Blackwater.
Yeah.
I don't know if
Blackwater is
say
good.
It's my favorite. Yeah. See, I haven't sat down and sort of ranked the battle once.
I need to do that too. And I think we're in for like. Have you seen the trailers, Kevin?
For the next one?
For Game of Thrones. I just want to make sure that
season 7 trailer.
Season 7 trailers.
Yeah,
for Game of Thrones. Okay.
Yeah,
so like we see a snow environment, we see White Walkers, we see all that shit happening. Presumably that's, episode 6, like the penultimate episode. Like based on this episode, this action set piece, I'm like very confident and excited to see what happens in 2 episodes from now. Like I think it could be unbelievable. And like people still rank Hard Home sometimes as like it's really up there. And like this guy I think can really take it home, and it could potentially bring everything we want in one scene, which I think would be awesome.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Like to me, I think there's a difference between best battle and best like episode that the battle's in. So I like the battle best. I put that down as my favorite like episode of all Game of Thrones. But I like the episode, like the stories surrounding the battle. With the actual battle, I think I did like this one better. I think I'll agree with you and Kevin on this one. That I do think this dragon battle was probably the best battle the show's ever done.
Actually, you know what? Yeah, that makes sense. Like I do see Battle of the Bastards. Everything surrounding it I love because it was the build up to the battle, and we got a little snippets with Daenerys. And then this one was a little bit more scattered. But yeah, I guess I would have to look at them again and actually compare the battle scenes. Maybe I think it just comes down to I'm a bigger Jon fan than a Daenerys fan. But I think they were both awesome.
Be like me and not be a huge fan of either of them. Maybe that's why I picked the Greyjoy one so much.
Well, see, I'm actually a Daenerys fan, not a Jon's fan, but I still totally take Jon's side over Daenerys during their meetings. But but the other I lost my train of thought. Any more thoughts on this real quick, Max? Well, so to gather my thoughts.
I thought I just overall unbelievable. Really impressed me. Really looking forward to what happens going forward. And like just like again with the music kicked ass when like she just came over right when the dragon was introduced. They really bumped up the score to 100 for this one, and I thought it was awesome. I loved just like the overall panic. Like you literally see the Lannisters scared shitless, like the guys with the sticks and the shields, and like Bronn was panicking, telling Jaime to go back to King's Landing. I thought the whole setup for it was awesome. Like you hear the Dothraki, you see them panic, and Jaime refuses to leave. And I just thought, like through the board, it was really well done. And I think it was awesome how it ended with Jaime sinking to the bottom like Tyrion did in season 5. So I just thought, overall, like amazing episode. And I'm curious with Kevin now, if you don't like Jon and Daenerys, who's like your favorite character? Like who do you like?
But by default, my favorite character, I guess, is always kind of almost my favorite character is Tyrion. It's always been up in the air. Tyrion's probably one, but truthfully, like if you said gun to head, my favorite character of all time really was always Tywin. Always loved Tywin. I think it's because I respect the hell out of the guy. Because actually, right now, making the rounds on the internet is this like picture where they said, let's play a game, build your ultimate squad, where you have like everyone's assigned a point value, each Game of Thrones character, and like, all right, this is what you need to get on the Iron Throne. So like there's the strategist category, like Tywin is 5 points, and you only have 15 points to spend. So Tywin's 5, Olenna's like 2, stuff like that. And right away, without hesitation, I was like, Tywin, 5 points. I take that guy because that guy, I have great appreciation for Littlefinger and Varys for how bright they are and everything, but politically, there's no one better. Especially since Tywin was doing all this right out in the open. Littlefinger and Varys could do it in the shadows. But Tywin was like flat out like, bro, you don't mess with me. And then once they do, he finds a way to get it done. So Tywin was always my favorite. Unfortunately, the problem is my other favorite character, he was always at odds with, Tyrion. So it's a weird relationship. But yes, of the major characters still alive, Tyrion is by far there. I wouldn't even put Daenerys probably in my top 10. Maybe, and Jon, it's pushing it. Here in my respect the last couple seasons. But before that, I was like, dude, I'm tired of the pouty guy. I don't care.
Well, see, I was almost the opposite with John. I hated John in the first couple of seasons. I thought he was a naive moron who just kept getting captured and getting other people killed. And then I started liking him more and more, like third season onward when he started becoming.
No, that's how I am. I didn't like him in the beginning. Now he's gaining my respect.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. But one more thing I wanted to get to with the battle is this is my one like nitpick, the thing that kind of bothered me is we assume that these wagons are full of all the food, and because I had the scene at the start of the episode where Jamie sent Bronn and Randall to like get all of the food so they make sure they have it all, everything, and Daenerys is burning it. Just burning it. So how people can eat? She even mentioned earlier in the episode. She mentioned earlier in the episode, how am I going to feed my Dothraki without the food from the breach? Why is you burning it then if you need your food
I agree.
to feed the Dothraki?
Well, I think that plays back to Tyrion and Varys and how they kind of want to control her because she is impulsive. She's pissed off because she's losing the war, and to do that, she wants to hit them where it hurts, and that's burning the food, burning them, all the soldiers, and rightfully so. But that's at the expense of the food and having a strategical advantage in that sense, and feeding her soldiers. So I think it's just kind of an impulsive reaction.
I suppose. I mean, I think she still could have roasted the Lannisters and defeated the Lannisters, but stole the food. That way, the Lannisters still don't have the food, but she has it.
Yeah. But then it's like arguable how much of a accurate strike can you do with Drogon. It seems like everything he blew fire on, like exploded and spread. Like it's just, I feel like every time you're going to introduce a dragon, it's immediate chaos, no control. Like I feel like it's just the introduction to like dragons in general. Like you can't strategically choose.
Well, I mean, I do see that point, but I think she could have been like she went directly for the wagons. Directly.
Oh yeah, 100%. a long shot following Drogon burn every single one along the road.
It's like that seemed to be her main objective, her main point.
Yeah.
Get the food, which I think is just a dumb strategy to have.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I totally get that.
The food thing was stupid. It was dumb. It really doesn't make any sense. You're right about that, Mark. I mean, talks about how she needs the food. I mean, maybe there's food left in Highgarden somewhere because she can just take it back real easily now. So maybe that was the thought. I don't know, but I don't have a good answer to that.
Well, yeah, the only thing I was thinking of is that at the start of the scene, Randall and Jamie and all them were talking about how the wagon trail was really, really stretched thin. So it could have been going on for miles, and maybe that was just a small section of the food that they burned. There's still all these wagons back there that they're going to go and take over afterwards.
Yeah.
Which I hope is addressed in the next episode, some way or another. I hope they address the fact, because the whole episode is called Spoils of War, and that kind of, they didn't even address the spoils.
Those spoils. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Cool. So I think we sort of covered everything in our discussion. I did sort of mention earlier that we're shortly, me and Max are going to stay and do a bit of a spoiler talk for those of you who have read the plot leaks, saw the production leaks, and stuff like that, which we'll do in a few minutes. But before then, Kevin, any last thoughts, overall thoughts on the episode? What you hope to see going forward?
What I want to see going forward? Man, that's loaded. Overall thoughts. Did I miss anything? Hold on. Did I miss anything? I wrote a bunch of notes, and I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. I'm back. Arya, Bronn, John. Cats fall off there. Damn, no. We covered pretty much everything. The Bronn thing was really kind of the profound thing that I wanted to talk about, of course. But I'm sorry. We actually talked so thoroughly into it. I don't have anything right now. Obviously I hope that they're going to use this time to create conflict for Tyrion with, Jamie and Bronn captured. And I hope that they further use it to create conflict with Cersei as well, between the two, because Jamie and Cersei have to separate in some way. So hopefully they strike on this opportunity. It would be cool for Jamie to serve Dany, but that's not going to happen without something majorly drastic to ever happen. So I don't know. I'm just waiting for the day Jamie kills Cersei. It'll be fun. So the only thing now is with Jamie gone, and if this ransom thing happens and Cersei's like, nah, Euron is now clear to move in officially without the looming threat of Jaime, even though Jaime wasn't going to be able to do anything anyway.
Yeah.
Euron can be the shoulder to cry on for Cersei if he sticks around, and they may expedite those wedding plans and start, boning. That's my thought right now, but you never know. He may be too busy torturing Yara. You never know. But if Cersei starts to get desperate, because she made that wedding proposal like after the war's won, when she was in a position of power, when Euron just captured the Dornish leaders and took the leader of the Iron Islands. So maybe she was drunk. Maybe she feels she has to expedite it now, and then that starts a weird problem with Euron and Cersei. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I did get the feeling, and we talked about this in the previous episode, that Cersei has no intention of marrying Euron, that she was just leading him on just to get his support.
Oh, I think she does. Totally.
Oh, you do? Okay. Oh, that's interesting.
I mean, I think she does, because I think she was like, when she looked at Euron after he brought those prisoners in, I think she looked at him with lust of 1,000 fires.
That is a good point.
Because the thing is, it doesn't make sense. And going back to episode 1, the whole point of Euron joining her doesn't really make sense unless she was gonna, be on board with this fully. Like when she brought Euron in, all Jaime did was talk about like all these terrible things he did. But like Cersei knew these things before he came. Like, you killed your brother. You can't be trusted. Cersei knew that when she called him in, and then she rejected his marriage proposal right away because of those reasons. No. Fishy. She already knew that. That wasn't a reason to deny him. I think she was playing a game to not hurt Jaime's feelings. I think that's all it was about. And now I think she is enveloped in her lust for Euron.
I don't know. I'm not so sure. I think she knows, and correctly so, that
you all know leaks though too. So I guess I could be off the.
Oh, no. I'll tell you straight up. This is not leaks or anything. I'm just wild speculating here. Yeah, just wild guessing. You could be right for as far as I know. But I was saying, like, with Euron, I just got the impression that he wants to marry her so he can become king and then kill her and take over.
Which he made that clear in the last season too.
Yeah, and I think Cersei is wise to that. I think Cersei knows that's his plan, so that's why she's just stringing him along and using him while he's useful. When she has the power, she totally intends to just cut him off. Well, that's just my thinking.
Maybe if I'm Euron, if it doesn't happen soon, I start to cut off my support or something.
Yeah,
it's like, yo, we need to expedite this, or maybe the Iron Fleet's not going to be hanging around too much in the seas anymore. Because they're the only game in town for each other, pretty much. I mean, other than, I guess, the Iron Bank now, but...
Yeah, they kind of need each other. But yeah, so I think it's sort of an alliance of convenience. I don't think there's any true love there. And I think Euron is really, like, he's just fucking with Jaime. I don't think he's all
Oh, my God, yeah.
Yeah, that is so awesome. I love that.
It's so funny.
Cool. So, yeah, Max, any final thoughts on the episode before we...
Oh, I thought it was an awesome episode. I think it's one of those episodes that's the perfect part 2 to the last episode. Like, I really want to watch those back to back. And I just, thoroughly enjoyed it. Every scene had some kind of a deep meaning and like a revelation. Absolutely loved it. They didn't really waste any time. And the action set piece at the end was just the cherry on the cake. Is that the saying? Cherry on the... You know what I mean? It was awesome.
Cherry on top.
Icing on the top, icing on the cake.
Who puts cherry on cake? Anyways.
Cherry cake.
Whatever. Yeah, it was awesome. I loved it. Great episode. That's all I have to say. I think that's great. I'm looking forward to see what happens next.
Cool. Agreed. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and end the non-spoilery talk now. So anyone who doesn't want the spoilers, which means Kevin, we're gonna lose you now. So
that's me. I don't do spoilers, my friend.
So
I'm jealous.
Which is smart. Yeah, I'm jealous too. So let me thank you so much for joining. It was so awesome to have you here join the chat. Fill in for Atkin, who's away on his road trip, wherever traveling, doing the hiking thing. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us. And yeah, just let everyone know where they can find you. Check out your awesome videos.
Sure. Yeah, it was great talking to you, bros. It was pretty awesome. Again, memory from Trial by Trivia, and it was awesome. For my videos, just basically you go on youtube.com/theBattProductions. It's in the description of this video, or in the title of this video. Just remember, it's The Batt Productions, all one word, and that's pretty much it. You can see some cool stuff there. All right, so thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate it.
Thanks, buddy. Great talking to you again.
Yes, thanks so much. We have to do this again sometime, definitely.
Oh, totally. I'm down.
And it was,
all right, have fun talking about the.
Yeah, it was also, it was totally great getting to actually hang out and talk about Game of Thrones without being asked really ridiculously hard trivia questions.
Without being stressed out.
I never felt like a bigger moron in my life than that.
Me too.
Oh my God. Yeah, me and Max here, we got like none right between us, maybe?
None.
I don't remember.
You got a couple right, Kevin.
I got one. Okay, I got one right.
Yeah.
And that was the most depressing thing ever. I was like, why does anyone listen to me at all if we can't get any of these right? But they were super hard, though.
Yes.
They really
were. Holy hell.
Tarzan does not necessarily think they're hard, but I don't know. They are. Yeah. He's also the guy that makes up the questions rather than having to answer the questions.
And learns them as they find them.
Yeah. But I will.
Yeah, so I agree. It was fun.
I will admit, all the questions you were asked, I would have gotten wrong too. So I would have been right there with you.
Oh, ridiculousness. Well, maybe we'll do the Trial by Trivia round 2, and I don't know, maybe that'll happen. I don't know if I'm going to commit to that. I'm not sure, but we'll see.
I think it would be great just to talk to you again without the hard trivia questions. Just a conversation like that. I had a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I always have a million ideas that are made up for like collaborations between YouTubers, but the problem it's just so much work. Like for the perfect, well, for me, like if either of you have ever done it, like I love like fantasy football and stuff. Like I always thought it'd be the coolest thing to make, like to do a fantasy roundtable draft sort of Game of Thrones characters, particularly fighters, but it could be anything, and have like fans vote on which team was the best. The problem is when you do that, whoever has more subscribers may win automatically, but there's no real way to do points. Maybe we would do like, we wouldn't release who picked which team or something, but I don't know. I'll figure that out another time. But yes, talking about Game of Thrones together without trivia questions would be awesome in the future.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. All right, man. Thanks a lot for joining.
No problem. Take care, my friends.
See you, Kevin.
All right. See ya. Cool. All right. So spoilers begin now. So if you're like Kevin and are smart and haven't read any of the spoilers, don't want the rest of the season spoiled, now's the time to sort of take off. And thank you so much for joining us. And yeah, be sure to subscribe to my channel. Be sure to check out Max's channel. And be sure to check out Kevin's channel as well. Cool.
Yeah, and if you're anything like Kevin, you're going to be disappointed as fuck to find out that Jaime isn't taken captive by Daenerys.
I was going to ask you about that, Max, because I actually didn't know. I hadn't read that in the spoilers either way. I was uncertain about what happened. All I knew what happened to Jaime, and by the way, we're into spoilers now. So but all I knew what happened to Jaime was that he shows up at the Dragon Pits scene at the end. Like I had no idea what's in between, what's in the interim between this episode and that episode.
It's really funny with the plot leaks and my predictions. They've slowly become a blur, because I really kind of puzzled in what I wanted. But yeah, I think actually, you know what? I think you're kind of right. They said that, you know, Jaime falls off and then they end up, I remember reading that they escaped. So
okay,
I'm not sure. I actually like Kevin's idea better. I don't remember if I said this or not. Maybe I said it in my prediction. I'm not sure. But I would have loved that interaction to have Tyrion kind of get that chance to communicate with Tyrion in like after the battle, which we are going to get. But I think it would be really cool if he got to interact with Daenerys and maybe she would use him as a bargaining chip. But, you know, we know that Bronn makes it out of this. We know that Jaime makes it out of this. And I think the best case scenario for that is to not have them caught by Daenerys. Because if they are, Bronn wouldn't live. And he is going to live, so.
Yeah, well, we do know we're going to get, because we know the Dragon Pit scene at the end of the season, so we know that's when we'll get or at least I'm assuming that's when we'll get the Jaime and Tyrion meeting.
Yeah. The
Jaime and Tyrion interaction will happen there.
Do you want me to maybe spoil something for you, or do you want me to
go ahead. Go ahead.
Did you know that Jaime's going to meet with Tyrion next episode?
No, I did not know that.
I wish I didn't tell you. It's
no,
like
it's okay.
it's I feel bad. It's one of the, it's one of those things that do you want like the whole rundown? I think okay, I'll just tell you, if you want to go check it out, check it out. Check my video. I break down what's confirmed in all of the plot leak. Pretty much all of it is now, based on set leaks and stuff. Jaime and Tyrion will end up interacting next episode, and I'll leave it at that.
Oh, well, okay. My curiosity is getting better. What's the context?
It's a big shock because like travel time, like it's hard for me to get my mind out of it because even in my predictions and it's hard to disassociate the travel of time. Like last episode, we got Jaime with the gold. Daenerys is in Dragonstone. At the end of the episode, we got the gold is in King's Landing. Daenerys is in Highgarden. So that is what happens in episode 5. So do you want to know where they interact? I'm really stepping on stones here.
King's Landing.
It is King's Landing. So the whole thing,
because I did know that Tyrion was going to be in King's Landing in episode 5. That's where he meets Gendry.
So that's the whole thing, and this is where my gripe is about the season: is that if these like plot leaks, obviously they miss the minor details, and they may flesh it out more for us to for it to make more sense. But in my predictions, I said that the reason Tyrion would go to King's Landing with Davos was to get Gendry. To smuggle Gendry out of King's Landing because Davos knew him as a Baratheon bastard, and I also believe that Sam would know how to forge Valyrian steel, and Gendry could be useful following that formula if Sam would ever send that to them. But now we're in a season where that totally didn't lay that groundwork, and I think they're literally going to go to King's Landing for Tyrion to parlay with Jaime, which doesn't really make any sense to me. I don't know why he would do that.
That kind of makes sense, though.
I just don't know why he would sneak. Like, that's putting your hand, like, from Daenerys' perspective, you're putting your hand of the queen in, like, serious danger. And Davos makes sense because he can smuggle Tyrion in. But
well, that's what I'm saying. It could be like a secret meeting. Like, they're doing this in secret. Like, Cersei doesn't know. Maybe Daenerys doesn't even know.
They did. I think they did disclose it is like a secret meeting, and they find Gendry just like fucking off, just doing whatever he wants along the way. And they're like, "Oh, hey, come with us," and that just ends up happening. But and we know that Gendry's coming back. We saw him with a warhammer on the beaches, which is presumably King's Landing, and he's hitting gold or men over the head with it.
Well, that was my understanding. That was Davos and Tyrion leaving King's Landing, and they got caught by Lannister soldiers, and so Gendry comes in and saves them with the warhammer. So they all go to Dragon's Den.
Exactly. So I don't know how they find Gendry among that, but from what I'm gathering, they just try and have a secret meeting with Tyrion.
It does seem like a lot needs to happen in this next episode. In fact, this next episode is where I'm really most unclear about. I was going to say that episode 5 is where I'm most fuzzy. Always been that way because I know that we got this big battle in episode 4, and I know by the end of the season we get the White Walker battle up north, and then the Dragon Pits in the final episode. I was very unclear with what happened in between.
This is literally the one episode to bridge the gap, and then based on information, I haven't checked out episode 5 leaks. I don't want to spoil myself.
I don't want
to know the details of what happens next episode, which is kind of stupid to say because I've spoiled everything else for myself. But I don't want to go that far. But based on the title of the episode, is called Eastwatch, which it's hard to wrap my head around because we know that Tormund is in Eastwatch. We know that the Brotherhood are heading to Eastwatch, or they're going to be at Eastwatch. And based on that episode name, it means that they've got to show us Eastwatch. They've got to introduce that for the next episode.
Yeah, but here's the thing. You remember that the first episode of the season was called Dragonstone, and we only saw Dragonstone in the last 10 minutes of that episode.
Exactly. So
we didn't actually see any action going down in Dragonstone until the following episode. So I think it will be the same thing here, where it's setting up Eastwatch. We might see we might. I assumed, like, this is no spoilers. I have no idea, but I assumed that we would see Thoros and the Hound arriving at Eastwatch and meeting the Hound, and that would be all the Eastwatch we got in this episode. That the rest would be the setup that we saw in the preview, the promo for this episode. That Bran sent the Raven to Jon, told him that the White Walkers are coming for Eastwatch. Yeah. So I think that's mainly what it's going to be about. It's going to be about the setup for Eastwatch. But I think other than that, we still need the transition to see what's going on with the southern battle with Cersei and Daenerys. Because I said this before, like we know in the Dragon Pit scene that Cersei agrees to this, truce with Daenerys, even though she has ulterior motives, she has some backdoor plans in her mind. She still agrees to the truce, and I think there's no way that she would agree to the truce if it wasn't for unless she's completely defeated. Like Daenerys has to completely wipe her out, fuck her up. And I think that has to be made clear in this next episode.
Yeah, well, that's why I wanted to, the leaks, as you're watching more and more, it sets that up. Like she got approved from the Tycho Nestoris, the Iron Bank. I think it's pretty clear now that he's going to fund her because he said, we will have your support if we get the gold. Seems like they got the gold. They're not going to do anything fancy with that. I think they're just going to play it off the way it is. And I think, the plot leak says, she's going to be preying on the White Walkers to kind of help her out, so she can it's a good distraction, so she can kind of focus on bulking up her force. So when Daenerys comes back, she's going to have trouble taking it from her, which is a shock to me because I thought Cersei was dead this season, but apparently not.
Originally I thought she was going to die, but then I realized they're going to play the long game with her, and I think that makes her setting up. But I do think she's not going to be totally defeated because you're right, she's going to have this back plan of having the White Walkers be a distraction so she can build up her reinforcements. But I think she does need to get to a point, because if she still has any position of strength, she wouldn't agree to this truce no matter what. She has to be in a position where she needs the time to build up her reinforcements. So I don't know if that's how they're going to handle this. And plus, have you heard, am I the only one who read the spoiler that Edmure Tully is going to be in this season?
I don't know if I read it. I thought he'd be in it. I thought that he would be in it in the start of the season. I thought Arya would go to him right after she killed all the Freys.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But I remember seeing something on Watchers on the Wall saying that the actor was seen.
That's interesting. I don't remember that specific report, but if he is, that'd be interesting because I don't know where they're going to fit him in. I feel like they have no time. Next episode, I just checked, 59 minutes long.
59 minutes. Okay.
59 minutes. So, I think the typical season 6 episode was 52 minutes. It was pretty short. So we get some extra time there.
Well, this episode was really short too, which surprised me.
Yeah, probably it's just an action set piece, but they got a lot to show.
But I did hear that the final 2 episodes, 6 and 7, were almost half an hour and a half each.
It's 70 and 80 minutes.
Yeah,
71 minutes and 81 minutes.
Yeah, so close to an hour and a half. Well, close to an hour and a half or an hour and a half. So I think that might make up for the difference. But I think this episode definitely needs to be the transition episode that needs. And as far as the teleporter goes, I have still a couple of teleporting jokes, and I still think it's totally I still love these jokes. I still think it's great, but I don't actually have an issue with the speeding up of time because they need they're pushing things along and they need to sort of get to the point, which is what I loved about this past episode, is that they just got to the point. They didn't waste time on these filler scenes that were in season 3, like Kevin was talking about.
Yeah, I'm totally cool with it. And I think it's hard for some people to adapt because Game of Thrones was built on Arya took a season for her to get from the travel with the Riverlands with the Hound.
Yeah, that's the thing that pissed me off the most. It took way too long to get that.
I know. But it's it doesn't bother me at all, they're traveling, because they're justifying it. The gold was there, the gold's in King's Landing when she arrives. To me, that kind of stuff makes sense. And that's why I think this episode's going to be traveling like crazy. We could see Jon arrive at Eastwatch. I doubt it, but we could because of how fast everything's traveling. Yeah,
you're totally right. It's totally possible. Oh, no. Go ahead, Max.
I had nothing important to say.
Okay, cool. So I want to change the subject a bit because it reminds me of this argument I've been having with my brother. So I want to get your opinion on this. Well, maybe not an argument, but different on speculation is I think, even though we saw nothing in the plot leaks or spoilers that indicated this, we were just talking about the teleporter. I think Jon needs to visit Winterfell. I mean, why couldn't he? I mean, he's going up to Eastwatch.
I was watching that with you guys.
It seems kind of dumb that he would not at least stop by. It seems like he needs to, especially if he knows Bran and Arya are there, which we see in the next episode, the promo for the next episode, he gets a raven. So he knows they're there. And if he does make some sort of alliance with Daenerys, he does need to tell his northern people. He needs to go to Winterfell and tell them. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
That makes sense. That's an interesting perspective. My main thing was that, like, I know the show sometimes throws out logic, and it would make sense for Jon to go. Like, it would make sense for a character to go somewhere and whatever, and do whatever. I just think that Jon's going to be, like, that's going to be in this episode. They're going to establish that his mission is to go to Eastwatch. Bran is going to put a panic in him, which I like to see. I like to see how Bran saw the Night King, and it may be more than Jon just capturing a white. It may be an idea, but I hope maybe Bran tells him that he must do something like that. But yeah, I think that Jon will just want to head straight there and not waste any time. That's just my point of view. It wouldn't make sense if he, I don't know. It would be interesting if he stopped by in Winterfell, but I feel like as a show, you wouldn't want to, you want to save that for the next season. Have people chomping at the bit, excited to see a Stark and Snow reunion.
I would be upset if they saved it, especially like they hinted at when Sansa said to Arya, "Oh, Jon's heart would stop if you see it." I was like, we need to see that. Then we can't delay it for another season, especially the way they're speeding the storyline. But let me propose this theory to you: what if, like, next episode, like towards the end, instead of seeing Jon at Eastwatch, we see Jon at Winterfell, and then in episode 6, that's when he's at Eastwatch.
That would be cool. That would be really cool. I'd love to see it. I think that would be awesome. I don't know. I have no idea if we're gonna. I don't think we're gonna see that. I feel like as a show, they've brought 3 Starks, and I feel like the way they're gonna end this season, I could be wrong, is Jon is away from Winterfell. He's out of the north. He's in the south. He did the dragon pit thing, and then Winterfell could maybe be in some kind of trouble. The wall comes down, they could be open for attack, and then that's like the holy shit. We need Jon to get back there and take his place, or maybe he won't want to. Maybe he'll want to leave Sansa in his stead because he's too busy fighting a war. But yeah, I don't know. With that, I don't think he's going to get to Winterfell. I like the idea. I would love to see it. I just don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I think I might be pushing for this more out of wishful thinking rather than what actually is going to happen in the show. But I will say there was a Vanity Fair or some Entertainment Weekly cover shoot that had Jon, Arya, Sansa, and Bran in Winterfell. Although that doesn't mean it's not proof, because we also got like a shoot of in season 6 of like Dany and Cersei and Marjorie together, which is obviously was just a photo opportunity. They didn't actually share a scene in King's Landing, so it could have been that situation.
It was like all the Starks kind of a thing.
Yeah, but we already know 3 out of the 4 there, so it does kind of make sense to me that photo shoot was actually taken from a scene where Kit Harington was in Winterfell.
I would like to see that, but I think we're gonna see Jon. Hopefully, we see more of Jon through like Bran's perspective, and what I mean by that is visions. Like, there's no plot leak on visions. And like, I love the Tower of Joy so much. Like, I would love to see the next step, the next vision, instead of him just watching the Night King. I want to see a really cool vision. And I think that would be awesome to play off. In episode 6, we're following Jon through that whole thing. And as kind of a setback to that, you're getting Bran's vision to that.
And plus Bran still needs to tell Jon about his parents.
Yeah. And that's going to be huge too. And Sam is probably going to leave Old Town this episode.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Do
you know? Don't answer me specifics, but do you know why he's gonna leave?
No, I have no idea. And people like people are saying like expelled. That makes no sense to me.
It made sense before, but since
but they've already negated that.
Yeah.
So
I think he's gonna quit personally.
That makes a lot of sense. And like he was given those scrolls. And if they're old scrolls, he may find a vital piece of information, and he may not realize he could feel like he's wasting his time. Bran could summon him there to Winterfell, say, "Come to Winterfell, I need you." Because I think what's interesting with Sam, I think Sam and Bran will have a cool relationship, because Bran is like living in this world that nobody understands, and Sam is the one to look at the history books, tie the knots together, connect the dots, and show everyone like, "Hey, look, this is actually legit." And I think that's Sam's role, to interpret what Bran is seeing and prove it.
That is a very good point. And talking about things I think needs to happen this season, that will be pissed off if they push it off to next season. Yeah, Brian needs to tell John about his true parentage. I think that needs to happen this season, even if it's at the end of the season, because I think that will change how John and Daenerys interact.
Yeah, and that's why I'm excited with all, like, these are the stuff we don't know, which I'm super excited to see. And like I don't know how you feel about this, but I've been saying it ever since I made a prediction video on John, and like I think that it says that he rides away on a horse with Benjen or from Benjen, and we see him on a horse from the trailer. But like, I would love to see almost like a hint or proof that he's a Targaryen before they say, John, you're actually a Targaryen. Like, I would love to see him if he's in danger, surrounded by whites, he summons Rhaegal like Daenerys did Drogon in season 5. Like, I think that would be the coolest reveal ever. Like, he just closes his eyes, he knows he's screwed, but he summons Rhaegal to help him out. I think that would be awesome.
Yeah, because we do know that next episode they're supposed to meet, and Rhaegal's going to have this connection to John, which makes sense because Rhaegal's named after Rhaegar, which is his father. Yeah, I think that's really cool. And and something I think they can push off to next season, which I think they will, is John he's going to become the dragon rider for Rhaegal. But I think that's a season 8 thing.
But then that's a question if, like, will we see Rhaegal next episode? We haven't seen him at all. They haven't established him at all. And, like, they better frickin' show him. And we saw in the preview Daenerys on Drogon kind of, I guess, trying to intimidate John.
Wasn't that in the plot leaks, though, that the John petting the dragon in this episode?
Yeah, that was in the plot leaks, and then they saw it on the set leak. But I think it was believed to be Rhaegal, not Drogon. So I don't know. I don't know if Rhaegal will make an appearance.
Yeah, I think it was Rhaegal. I think that shot we got in the promo was something different. I think that was a totally different scene of just Daenerys trying to intimidate John with Drogon.
I would love to see that, and that would be kind of the start of Daenerys kind of like, you know, getting more respect, understanding John, being like, holy shit, like, wow. And that's I want to ask you about something. We can go more about episode 5 later, but I have a question about a part in the trailer for episode 6. Eastwatch by the sea. We see them standing on like a rock. Could be like the arrow that the Hound speaks of. I don't know what he's talking about, that arrow. There's a lot of speculation on that.
Yeah.
But the shot of John from behind, and he takes out a white, and you see in front of him like a horde of whites, and then fire. Right? You know the shot I'm talking about?
I think so.
It's how the trailer ends. It's a back shot of John. And he kills one guy, and there's like a horde of 20 or whatever watching him.
Oh, wait, are you talking about the second trailer?
Yeah, the second trailer.
Where like the lone wolf survives and they show John like...
Yeah, and he strikes one guy, and then everyone else is standing there. Seeing that scene threw everything off for me because it doesn't go with the plot leak. It's totally on its own, and that's why I get hope, because I think that we're going to get a lot of holy shit in episode 6 and episode 7. Because why are whites not attacking John? We've seen them only outright attack, but they're standing there watching. And we've seen fire there, which indicates that Daenerys was there, burned things, and now John's on his own. The whites are standing there not moving, and they're just staring at John. So that raises huge speculation. John has died before, he's come back. Maybe the Night King wants to do something.
Corrupt him?
Talk to him. Maybe he wants to do something. I don't know. Like, I have no idea. Like, we'll only find out later, but...
That's very interesting because I did not read.
I've been asking that question for a while because I'm so confused. I'm working on a Jon Snow video, and like there is so much we don't understand. Like he literally is a human incarnation of the Night King. He is ice on the outside, he's a Stark, but on the inside he's fire Targaryen, just like the Night King. He's an ice person, but internally he's Dragonglass, and they share a ton of connections. And I think John could be his heir. John could be whatever. He could be like he's a bridge between ice and fire, and I think if we were like we were talking about with the White Walkers being more than just a weapon, that would be the perfect time. They got John alone. He had experience with the Wildlings. He's the guy who bridges the gap between two sides. His whole arc is perspective. And if the Night King would talk to John and give him a piece of his point of view, even though they say he's not going to talk, but maybe give him a point of his point of view, and then that's the fight. It's crazy tinfoil, but I can't explain that scene.
Yeah, well, my perspective, my point of view, I sort of lean away from those theories because I am all on board that the White Walkers are just a weapon. That's all they'll be used for. Like, I used to be on board with this whole John being a truce and bringing fire and ice together, but I don't know, I lean away from that. And with that scene in the trailer, like, I didn't read that much into it. I thought that was mainly just the Whites were just, I didn't think they were standing still. They could have just been there. Just because they weren't charging at him doesn't mean they're necessarily standing still for him, because he did cut one down.
I know.
So I don't know. It could go either way. I don't know. It'll be interesting. But I think what's interesting is the point you bring up is that the plot leaks might not be infallible. Like, there could be some faults to them, and even if they are, there's a lot of gaps that we don't know. Like, the one thing the plot leak said is that Cersei would try to get pregnant by Jaime and have a miscarriage. We haven't seen that.
Yeah. Weird thing about that, they released some photos, like professional photos, for the next episode. Cersei's sitting on a bed. I don't know if that has any significance, but hey, it could hint to that plot point. Not sure. It's just like, like the plot leak. One point, Jon decides to capture a White. Well, that sounds stupid. But maybe if you build it like, they planted the seed 2 episodes ago when he was talking to Tyrion, or in episode 3, saying, how do you prove to everybody that, a threat is real, even though they don't believe you? And then Bran saying that everyone's going to Eastwatch, the Hound seeing it, the Hound, I never predicted that, the Hound looking into the flames and seeing that Eastwatch is important. So I think there's more to Eastwatch than capturing a White. So that wasn't in the plot leak. So it'll be really interesting to see like what happens from there.
Well, I still think catching a White will be, maybe it's not the only thing going on, but I think that will be a central motivation for Jon going there initially, because I think he does need to prove, like, his encounters with Daenerys has shown that he's not going to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
Threat, that he needs to prove it. So that kind of makes sense to me. Where I'm really hazy, and this is where I can get into some speculation with what's going to go down with Daenerys, because where I'm really hazy is how the two of them are going to come together in the next episode, because we know that Jorah goes north with Jon. And sort of from the previews, we see it seems like Daenerys is going off her rocker. That's fair, because we see Varys go to Tyrion and be like, you need to get her to listen. You need to get her to calm her shit. And my thinking is that, or some of my theory is that Jorah is going to come back, and he's going to be the one that get Daenerys to calm down. He's the one who's going to get her to talk reason and see reason, and he's the one who's going to get her to believe more in this White Walker threat, because I think he's going to be sold by it from his father, and meeting with Sam, or whatever. Yeah. And even though he doesn't have personal experience with that, I think he's going to be the one to sort of get her to sort of calm down and change her mind.
Yeah, it makes sense. And he's kind of he would be a good military strategist to kind of fill that role. And like, if he does show more concern to the North than everyone else does, she may, want the diplomatic approach, going the route of talking to Cersei, scheduling that Dragon Pit meeting, and trying to capture that White to prove it. I just don't know how the interaction is going to go when Jorah arrives. Like, they're going to arrive, he's going to say, hi, everybody, and then they're going to head off. Like, I know that there's going to be a scene where Jon gives back his sword, or tries to. Just because I feel like you could predict that without the plot leaks. It's just like a natural thing I think that Jon would do. But yeah, how you would get Daenerys to go north with them, I have no idea. Like, the way I predicted it in my prediction video is I said that she would be at Dragonstone or something, and Rhaegal would just fly away. She'd be like, shit. And then she would have to follow him, or I don't know how to explain that. Yeah,
so from what I understood from the plot leaks is that Daenerys doesn't leave to go with them to Eastwatch. She kind of shows up at the last second, like right in mid-battle.
Yeah, that's how I saw it. That's what I read too.
But Jorah does go with them from the start. So my thinking was that she sends Jorah with them. Otherwise, why would Jorah go with them?
And that would be interesting too, because Jorah's made it clear he's 100% going to back Daenerys no matter what. So, and Jon is independent of Daenerys. They're two totally different things, with people with two different concerns. So Jon wants to go north. Dany wants to, fight her war. So is there going to be conflict between them? Because Jon's saying, I'm going north no matter what, and I'm going to take this person, and this person. And is she going to have a problem with that? Wait, hang on. He leaves with Gendry, Davos, Jorah, and himself, as well as with some Stark men. So Jorah is the one question where I don't understand, because Jon.
That makes me think that Jon is leaving with Daenerys' blessing, with their permission.
Yeah. See,
he's not being like, nah, fuck off, I'm leaving, because we see before, like, she would even stop him from leaving, like, because she took his boat, so he gives his boat back. So I think they make a pact, they make some sort of agreement that she agrees to let him go fight, get the proof the White Walkers exist. Yeah. And I think this happens after, this is like towards the end of the episode, where after Jorah and Tyrion's got her to calm down.
Yeah. That's the one bit I'm stuck on, because Jon won't. He's totally independent. He's going to do his own thing. If his brother says that he needs to go to Eastwatch, he's going to Eastwatch. And with Davos, he can order Davos to come with him. He can order Gendry to come with him, because Gendry hasn't really subscribed to Daenerys. I think he would have more of a connection with Jon because of Arya.
I'm still so lost about Gendry. They're going to introduce him next episode. He's going to come back with Tyrion, and he's going to go to Eastwatch. It seems like a lot to happen.
I know.
Why is he doing this? They need to have a good explanation. If this isn't explained well, and I still say, I don't care what anyone says, I still say the mirror thing was not explained well in the show.
Yeah, I get it. But that's a really. Sorry, what?
Yeah, well, I was just going to say with Gendry, like, this needs to be explained well.
Oh, 100%. And I think that would be a cool drama if Jon wants to go north and the majority of people choose to go north with Jon, and Daenerys is like, well, shit. Like, and he goes with them. Jorah is the one wild card, but then it'll be great to see all of our, like, you know, favorite characters that we've known for so long at Eastwatch. I think that'll be awesome. And I don't know how long of a role Daenerys is going to play, or how long the action scene is even going to be. In the trailer, when we saw White Walkers, I had no idea White Walkers would even be a part of episode 6.
Oh, really?
It seemed obvious, but like, I couldn't picture an action sequence where they would be running from whites as well as fighting White Walkers. You know what I mean? Because it's like, you're up in the chaos, you're running away from White Walkers. How deep are you north? I don't know. I just feel like all the White Walkers, or the 4, would be together. You know what I mean?
I think they're all charging towards Eastwatch. Like, their whole force is going there. They're preparing to cross the wall. Now, I just saw Cardinal Doomsday in the chat says, I reckon Gendry will go the way of Osha. Not exactly, obviously, but I hope not. I really, 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 really hope not.
I don't think I'm pretty confident he won't. This isn't a spoiler, but you know how they do come out with casting news, or like, or whatever. It's about a location. Do you want to hear about it or no?
Yeah, tell me.
Okay. So it's literally was just a location of a castle. Like, it literally means nothing. But I looked into it, and it had kind of rounded towers. It could, like, what other castle haven't we introduced other than
Storm's End?
Storm's End, there you go. And it had a similar look, and I think it lines up. And I think Gendry's really important, because I said cripples, bastards, broken things. I think Gendry would fit great in taking over Storm's End at the end of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that would make sense if that was the reason they tied it together, is because Tyrion saw, hey, and Davos knows Gendry. He could be the one to point this out, be like, hey, we need another alliance. Let's make an alliance with the Stormlands by bringing in their bastard king.
Yeah, and I don't even know where the Stormlands are at right now. Like,
yeah, it hasn't been touched on.
I have absolutely no idea. Yeah. So that'll be interesting for them to touch on. And if they will, like, I hope they make it like an actual interest in Gendry being Robert Baratheon's bastard. I think that would be great.
Yeah. And I think, Daenerys could recognize him as heir to Stormlands, even though she doesn't recognize Robert as the king. She could recognize him as Lord of the Stormlands. Yeah,
and then that goes to, I feel like Gendry would bend the knee, I guess. So he doesn't want to be king of the Stormlands from being a bastard. But Jon, I feel like will never budge. I feel like it's like rooted in his character. And in the plot leak, it says that if she helps with the White Walkers, he will bow down as king of the North, and that's it. And I honestly, looking at that now, after knowing what I've seen, it makes total sense to me because they're getting closer. Yeah. Daenerys respects Jon enough not to kill him, to keep him on, even though he'll refuse to bend the knee, and they have a good alliance going. That's the perfect chip he can offer is, hey, I'll get out of your hair. I'll let you rule the 7 kingdoms, but I'm not going to be the king who kneels. So I'm going to step back, and then you can put someone else in charge who will kneel to you, but it's not going to be me.
Really? Is that what you read?
I read that. This is all I read.
I read it differently. I read that Jon like agrees to kneel to her, basically.
To
saying,
kneel?
I don't care. Yeah, saying I don't care about being king. You can have. I'll be your warden as long as you fight against the White Walkers. From what I understood, this happened after the episode 6 battle. So after the White Walkers come. So because after she came with the dragons, and so he sees what a benefit she could be, and she sees that she's willing to help. So I got the feeling that he offered this up, but Daenerys doesn't necessarily take this offer.
Huh. The way I read it was that it was so chaotic, and Daenerys, like, until now, she's refused to help until he bends the knee. I took it as he would say, I'm going to drop my title as King of the North if you help, because that opens it up for her to take it over. And it just, for me, it lines up with Jon's story because they've really been setting him up as he doesn't kneel. He said to Tormund in like a couple seasons ago that, you know, he doesn't have a king. He's been shaped by wildlings. I just feel like he's a character who won't kneel anymore.
I don't know if that makes sense, though, because if Jon just gave up, then that would lead to whoever's in charge next would be Sansa. I mean, that's just passing the buck, really.
I see it as that would be the deal. Like, the deal would be if one of the Starks, like Sansa, I think would bend the knee. I think Jon, just the way he is, wouldn't want to, but that was the deal. Like, I'll drop my title.
I don't think she would. I think it makes more sense for Jon to bend the knee because he's the one getting to know Daenerys. He's the one learning all these things. Like we saw her in this episode, Missandei explaining, oh, she's just really nice. And he's the one who's learning that she's not the Mad Queen. Whereas as far as Sansa knows, she's the Mad Queen. You know, she's just the Mad King's daughter. Jon's the one who knows better. So I think it needs to be him that bends the knee. Yeah. But what I think is going to happen is he's going to agree to bend the knee, but they're going to end up getting married instead. That's what I've always said. It's like every interaction I've seen with them, it's like an unstoppable force meets an immovable object. Like they can't compromise on like who they are. And I think that it will result in a marriage because by the end of it, because I feel like they're going to grow and build some kind of a relationship. And Jon is in a place where Daenerys likes him in a way as like a friend, or she respects him, and marriage will be the only way to kind of tie their houses together because he'd be a great king of the North. Yeah. She wants him as king of the North, but as long as he's king of the North, she won't have the 7 kingdoms. So that's where marriage. Yeah, but if they marry, then he can remain king, and she'd still have the North, which is the great compromise we were talking about earlier. I think didn't even the plot leak say that the marriage would be her idea.
Marriage with Jon?
Yeah,
I didn't even know. I don't know anything about marriage with. I only know about. I only know about sex and about.
I remember reading it would be proposed, not necessarily that it would happen, but that it would be proposed.
Well, it makes sense because it seems like they're setting it up over these 3 episodes or 4 episodes.
Yeah. Yeah, the sex in the boat actually bothers me a lot worse than marriage because marriage makes sense from a political alliance perspective. The sex in the boat thing seems kind of cliche TV to me.
Yeah, it depends how they play it. Like, I'm not if they pull it off. Like, I'm not. Hey, like they. It seems like they've been through similar experiences. It would make sense that they would be somewhat attracted to each other. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It's all about the way it is on screen because I think the show has proven that the plot leak is just a shell of what the show is. Like there's a lot more to it.
I mean, it doesn't. There is actually a lot that the plot leaks don't touch. So it's not like this season was completely spoiled for me, but it was a bit more spoiled than I would have cared for.
No, I agree. Just the main beats, and like the same with like Brand and the Visions. That's one that I'm really holding out for. The way that I don't even understand how they're going to handle that action sequence. Like it looked crazy from the trailer. Like I edited it all together in one of my videos, and it's like it's everywhere. Like I don't understand how they're going to do it. And then Viserion too. Like, how do you feel about that now? Do you think they could pull it off?
Yeah, what the whole like Night King killing him
Yeah.
and becoming I've soft enough to I think maybe there's a possibility this show will pull it off. I've seen others who haven't even read this pod leaks, they just heard about this possibility and they're like, yeah, this sounds awesome. And see, that makes it seem like that's too fan servicey, and that was my issue with at the beginning. It seems too like. But I mean, I suppose, and it seems to be going that way, to be honest. And now that they're off book, and I suppose there's a way they could do it where it's not totally awful. But I don't know if I'd be 100% on board with it. We'll have to see. I'll judge it on its own merits when it comes. I was still
really excited for it.
That it did, I was still hoping that didn't happen. That won't happen, but I doubt it. I think it's pretty much a guarantee.
I'm actually pumped for it. Before they released anything about these plot leaks, I made a prediction that I think I talked about this like last year. I wanted Drogon in season 8 to be the one that was killed and resurrected, and I thought that would work. And Viserion to me does make sense. I don't think he's going to have a rider. I don't think they're going to address that, and I think it's just going to be Jon and Daenerys versus the Night King. It's a good way to balance out the scales, and to me it just. In the first episode, they showed giants as whites. That was kind of like an announcement, like, hey, look, they got giants too. And I think that was an introduction to, they got white horses, they got white giants, they got white people. Why not a white dragon? And I think next in episode 6, it's going to be
a white polar bear.
No, exactly. And I'm seriously pumped to see that. Like, I think that would actually be really good. Because it's an animal in the north, and they're gonna kill it and resurrect it, and I think it would be a crazy what the fuck moment. Like they're gonna get ambushed, and you're gonna see a white polar bear, all this shit. Maybe a white wolf, some white wolves. I think it'd be cool to see.
I still would rather see ice spiders. I'd be really bummed out if we don't see a single ice spider.
Yeah, but, I don't know. They might have swapped them for the polar bears.
Yeah, I mean, I was really anti-polar bear at first, but now I'm okay with it. Like, I'm open to it. Again, if they pull it off well, then that's fine. I'm not really opposed to the idea. I'm still opposed to the white dragon idea, but we'll see. If they manage to pull it off well, then it might soften me up in that bit. But yeah, there's still a lot like that.
A ton, and I would love to see a white direwolf, a white summer. I think
don't do that.
I would love it. I think it would be awesome because Jon would be like, "Holy shit, that's Bran's direwolf." I think it'd be really cool, and I think that's the next step. You got white giants. You're gonna get the white dragon. I think season 8 would be really cool to introduce a character that we love that is a white, and that would be a really emotional part.
All right, that would kind of maybe that I don't know.
A white Hodor.
I'll have to see. That's definitely not going to happen. I don't know. That would be. I don't know. Maybe not definitely, but that would be too much for me. You can't do that.
Yeah.
Summer. I don't know. Summer, but just don't do it. Ghost. Don't fucking kill Ghost and turn him to a white. If you're talking about that, would even turn Jon's heart even more. But that would just piss me off too because they severely are underusing Ghost, and if they have him show up just to be killed and turned to a white, that would be worse than what they did with Summer, and that would just piss me off.
I wouldn't like that. And when are we gonna see Ghost? It's frustrating. I want to see him. I don't know what they're gonna use him for.
I'm glad that we're not seeing him because that means he's not gonna die. If you see him, then that means he's dead. I don't know.
I just want to see him in one interaction. Just give me one. Give him an action set piece. I know they said that they had to choose 1-1 or Ghost for Battle of the Bastards. Well, obviously they chose 1-1.
You know what? It would be cool seeing Bran with Ghost.
Yeah, he uses Ghost. He wargs into him and has to do things for him. That would be really cool.
Although it does make me wonder if Brian would consider, no, this is Jon's.
Yeah,
it's not mine. I shouldn't touch him.
Yeah,
but it would be interesting though. It'd be cool. Yeah, I think with the Bran knowing that the White Walkers are coming to Eastwatch, I think we saw that in the trailers with the Raven, Jon wargs and Bran wargs into the Raven and sees the White Walkers coming.
Yeah.
So I think that's what we'll get in the next episode.
Yeah, and the Night King notices him, like he does every freaking time, and then he shoots Bran out. So yeah, I hope we get more Bran. I hope we get Bran fighting kind of the Night King in a I think it would be cool if the Night King could go into the Weirwood tree like Bran. I think that would be like a cool way to explain his mark or something like that. Like the reason why he's destroying all these Weirwood trees is because he's connected to ice. So if he surrounds a Weirwood tree in ice, he's always connected.
Yeah, I do take your point. I think that it would be cool if they revealed there was more to it and there's more to his strategy.
Yeah, very cool. But yeah, even like episode 7, no idea other than the dragon pit.
Yeah, that's basically all I know is the dragon pit and the big battle with the.
Yeah.
Oh, of course. Well, let's talk a bit about Littlefinger because that's something when Kevin.
Yeah.
We had to be a bit tight-lipped about because because we know that Arya's going to kill Littlefinger, and according to the plot, like Sansa orders Arya to kill Littlefinger. And I actually predicted against this because it sounded dumb, but so far the plot leaks are batting 1,000, so we have to assume for the second that that's going to be the case. I think something needs to happen to piss Sansa off enough that she wants to kill Littlefinger.
Yeah, I don't know what.
And I think it was what I was talking before about how I think Littlefinger needs to have a big play. And I think that's what we're going to see. He's going to make a big play, and for some reason it's going to fail. And Sansa's going to want to kill him because of that.
Yeah, and then there's the scrolls. Like I don't know if there's like people are saying this. I haven't subscribed to it, but they made a mention that they always kept all of the old scrolls. There would be a scroll of Peter Baelish sending to Roose Bolton for the marriage.
Yeah, actually,
I
hadn't thought about that. That is a very excellent point because people were pointing out in the episode where Maester, what's his name? Vulcan, where he was like, "Oh, I don't know about the winter thing. Let me check Maester Luron's records." And Littlefinger shot him a look like, "What the fuck?" And it didn't occur to me why he was upset, but that makes total sense about the marriage.
Yeah, but then what makes me wonder about that is that I thought it was pretty clear that Littlefinger or Sansa knew that he arranged her marriage anyway.
Yeah, Sansa knows this
because he took her and she didn't want to go, and he's like, "You don't have to if you don't want to, but I think this is the best move." And she decided.
I think there has to be something more to it, maybe something we don't know about.
Yeah, so that's why this is the one plot line where I'm very confused because I like to me it's just I feel like it's just shredding water. Like there's nothing that they can use right now to make him guilty or anything like that. Like they can't just kill him for no reason.
Yeah,
and that's why. Yeah,
very disappointed if that was the case.
And what my predictions were thrown out the window. I didn't think that Bran would be like so fucked up. I thought he would go there and be like, Littlefinger's here. He did this, 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 and this, and I need proof because I feel like that's Bran's whole story now is he needs people to get proof of what he sees to prove what he's seeing is valid. And I thought so that's where Catspaw would come in and say, Catspaw proves that he did this, this, and this. Arya would be looking for it. They find it. That proves him that he's guilty. And Sansa would be playing him at every move, trying to get the most out of Littlefinger before she ends up killing him. But I don't know how they're going to play this.
Yeah, it's still up in the air. Like my original prediction was that Littlefinger would try to use the divide between Sansa and Arya, try to pit them against each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I still think that's a possibility. We see Arya and Littlefinger shoot that little look to each other, so maybe he could try something like that and ends up backfiring on him.
Yeah, it would be really interesting. Yeah, this season I thought that Sansa would be the one who would get the most of Littlefinger, and like she would get like this is like so far fetched, but I thought that Arya's here, she can use Arya as a bargaining chip to marry to Robin to secure that part of the area. She'd get that marriage from Littlefinger, and then she'd end up killing him, and she'd still have that, and she'd take stuff from him like that. Obviously, Arya wouldn't do it, but it's just like I was throwing around ideas like that where Sansa could kind of take advantage of him. But in this case, they're gonna they have to introduce it quick. We got 3 more episodes. 2 episodes, Winterfell's probably going to be in it. I'm assuming they're not really going to be prevalent in episode 6.
Really? I think we'll at least get a couple of scenes.
Okay, yeah. Something. I just put all my money on.
Well, episode 6 an hour and a half too, so we have time.
Yeah, that's true too.
And if you think about it, the battle that we just saw was only like 10 minutes long. So I think the battle in the north with the White Walkers will probably be longer, but it doesn't necessarily have to take up the whole episode.
Yeah, for sure. A couple scenes to bring it up to pace and the action scene. So yeah, I'd probably spend like 30, 35 minutes in Eastwatch, I guess.
Yeah, that I think that sounds about right.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's true. So you get a lot of other room. That would make sense.
Cool. So we've been going for a really long time, which is great. It's great to have this really long conversation. Usually Akin likes to take off a bit earlier, but I do want to sort of wrap things up. But before we go, I just want to open it up to anyone in the chat who's still around. If you want to ask, do a quick Q&A. We'll just take a couple of questions real quick from the chat. But yeah, but while they're thinking about that, while we're waiting for questions, I don't know. What do you think about Arya after season 7? Like, because do you think they're setting up for her to fight the White Walkers by giving her the Valyrian steel dagger?
I'm really torn because it's like she has a faceless ability. She's an assassin, but she also has a Valyrian steel sword. So Arya, I'm 50-50. Like, I need to watch the last episode of season 7 to know where she's going to be, because she could go south. She could, like Sansa, she almost looks happy in certain scenes because she's like, holy shit, I have this sister that can kill anybody I want. Like, she's awesome. And she has this list and she's killed so many people already. Why don't I give her a couple names? So like that could play. They could use Sansa to try and kill people strategically to help out the North. They could use Arya, to fight off the White Walkers. But I feel like they're going to use her for a plot point that's more significant than just fight. I think she's too valuable. Like, she's too skillful. So I think they're going to try and find something for her that no one else can do because she's an assassin. But I just don't know what that would be.
That would be interesting, because it was my original question. Prediction was that Arya would go back to kill Cersei.
Yeah.
And I don't know, that was kind of assuming that she had a fallout with Sansa, but according to plot leaks, she won't necessarily have but it still makes sense to me that it seems like her story arc, especially listening to Dan and Dave talk about it, that she's finding that she doesn't fit in Winterfell anymore, that she's changed too much. It's not really her place anymore. So it would make sense to me if at the end of the season she goes, well, it's nice seeing you guys, but screw you, I'm going back to kill Cersei. But I could also see the point of, now she has the Valyrian steel, maybe she fights the White Walkers. I don't know.
I think she will die fighting the White Walkers. Like, I feel like in the last 2 episodes, she'll make it in time to help fight. But I think Sansa's going to try and use Arya to help out. Like, she might be like, hey, like, right now Cersei's holding down King's Landing. Daenerys is here in Winterfell. We're trying to hold off this. I know that Cersei's back there trying to scheme and shit and prepare. So just sneak over there and kill her.
That makes a lot of sense.
And eliminate that. And while she's going, Jaime, it's in the leaks that he's probably going north. So I think he's going to stop at Casterly Rock. He's going to stop at Winterfell. What if he hears of this and he's like, holy fuck, my sister? And then he's going to go back and maybe something will go crazy and he'll end up killing her and Arya will just watch. I don't know.
I love that. I love that prediction. I think that's what I would like to see. I would be against the thought of Arya getting killed by the White Walkers, just because I think in season 6, when she talked about riding over the Sunset Sea and seeing what's there, was, to me, that was blatant foreshadowing that that's how her story will end. Yeah. She's going to sail off.
A lot of people feel differently about that, because there's that sailing what's west of Westeros, but there's also, I always think of the Ned Stark scene where he's watching her fight Syrio Forel, and she kind of gets stabbed, and it's like foreshadowing that she'll die. Like, she just seems like one of those characters to me that just won't make it.
I don't know. I didn't really take that as foreshadowing as much as this Ned having some PTSD.
Yeah, no, that makes sense too.
But it could be. All right, so let's get to some questions in the chat. So if any more questions, because we're about to wrap this up soon, but so far I just have one question from Tuki Mello and Daddy TV. Will we hear the Night King talk this season? Oh, I actually addressed this earlier. Dan and Dave had said, and maybe they're lying, maybe this isn't true, we know that they lie in the past, but they have said that the Night King will not talk in the entire show.
Yeah, I can guarantee that he's going to share a very cocky stare, being like, you know, look at me, kind of like at Hardhome. While he resurrects the dragon, he's going to be like, yeah, fuck yeah, I'm resurrecting this dragon. He won't need any words for that. So
That will definitely be cool to see. Okay, so Icy Fury asks, "Will Jack and Hakkar be back?" Max,
I freaking hope so. I've worked him into every one of my theories, either or, whatever way. But like you're right, like there's not many episodes left. Can you like? There's literally 9 episodes left of Game of Thrones. Like there's less than a season of episodes of Game of Thrones left. 9 episodes. So like you're right, he may not have a place back, but I feel like there's a huge connection between, the bank and the Faceless Men, and I feel like it would be awesome to use it. And that's why I think Arya could play a role too. Like she trained with them, she knows how they work. If there was an assassin sent for them, she could maybe keep them safe. I don't know. That's reaching, but I hope.
I personally think that, I think the Iron Bank and the Faceless Men, they're both in Bravos. Doesn't necessarily mean there's a connection between them. And I think that, I don't know, I would vote against saying Jack and Hagar again. Although I think it would be cool. I think we're kind of done with this storyline. I think he was mainly there to train Arya up, and Arya's going to take it from here. But I could be wrong, and I think it would be cool to see him again.
And I'm still confused about his reaction about letting her go. Like he just let her go.
I'm not,
and I just can't. Like,
you should watch my video. I explained this. It's dead clear. This is his plan all along, was to train Arya up and send her back to Westeros to finish her kill list.
Because see, that would make sense. That was my drop the mic prediction on one of my videos. Was that it was the opposite way around, where Cersei didn't pay the Iron Bank. And they wanted Cersei dead, and Jack and Hagar would be like, "Oh, a girl knows her name," and that was like the whole thing. That Arya would be the one to kill Cersei, and they wanted her dead anyway.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. They could even I know they haven't touched on the storyline of the Faceless Men coming to kill her. Like it seems like that's wrapped up with a bow tie, so she's not going to be attacked by the Faceless Men because she left. So I don't know.
All right, so let me get to another question. From Tuki, Milo, and Daddy TV is, if Jon Snow is basically saving the world now and he doesn't know he's a Targaryen, well, what's the point of him being a Targaryen in the show? Which is a pretty good question.
I think it's his story of it's a story of perspective. Like he's his whole, if you look at his story and you look at who he is, he's in the middle of 2 opposing sides. Like he's ice and fire. He was Wildlings and Night's Watch. He's just always the bridge between 2 sides. And that's obviously works out through prophecy, and it works out through all of these different things. And I think that's why it's important. It's not important that his name is Targaryen. I think Jon is always going to be Jon Snow.
Yeah.
Well, what's important is,
I'll just interject real quick. A lot of people were saying him being Targaryen was foreshadowing he's going to rule the 7 kingdoms and be the king of Westeros. But I never thought that.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think what's important about Jon is, it's not like his blood or his name. I guess you could say his blood, but it's the fact that he is the sum of fire and ice, and it's just what he's going to do that's important. It's not the fact that he's Targaryen. It's his circumstance of who he is. And that's I would argue that for Bran too. I would say, I don't think Bran's the 3-eyed raven because he can just green sea and warg. I think he's the 3-eyed raven because of his past. I think he's the 3-eyed raven because of his connection to Jon. I think that's why he's so significant. And that's his whole arc, I think. If we see more glimpses in the past with Bran, it's of his family, because I think they're integral to defeating the White Walkers.
Yeah, and I also think that Jon being a Targaryen, to me, it would be it would make it worthwhile if Daenerys found out, and it helps Daenerys look at Jon differently. Yeah. If they interjects in their relationship, I think that would make it worthwhile. Yeah. All right, so I really got to head out soon, so I'll just take one more question from the chat. Colonel Doomsday says, "Is Bran gonna talk normal in a normal fashion ever again?" I'm going to say no. He's a robot.
Yeah, they set it up, and I think they set it up great. I wish we got more progression, but I get it. They're moving things along, and Bran traveled a long way back to the Wall, and he's not the same anymore. And I think they explained it great, and it makes total sense to me.
Yeah, I think this episode actually helped explain that. It would have been better if they set up for it better, but I think the scene with Mirror helped.
But that scene was all I needed, because it's who am I? I'm compromised. I'm made up of my only memories. Imagine being somebody who has access to everyone's memory all the time in every point of history. You're no longer Bran Stark. You're a fragment of everyone else. So it makes sense to me that he's no longer human. he has no sympathy for everybody because he's seen everything. He has a connection to everyone. So.
And the Colonel Doomsday other question is, what's Brienne going to do for the rest of the season? She's just well, we know we're talking about spoilers. We know that she's going to be at the Dragon Pit.
Yeah, but I just wonder how they're going to the connections between that. I don't know. Like, is Sansa going to be like, why would she want Brienne to go? Like, be my ears?
That's why I say Jon has to go to Winterfell. Jon has to go to Winterfell. That would make sense if he talks Sansa into saying, all right, we need representation there, so she sends Brienne.
Or would she send Brienne because she has no representation because only Jon is there and she wants her own eyes there?
Yeah.
She knows that Brienne is going to be trustworthy to her. So that's like up in the air. But other than the Dragon Pit, like, I think she's fighting Arya and Pod, and that's her job.
Pretty much. Yeah, she's become kind of a useless character. That's why I think she'll die. But maybe she has a part to play in the final season. So maybe that's why they're keeping her alive.
Yeah,
just putting her in the back burner until then. All right, so I actually would love to stay here and talk longer, but I actually have to leave to go to work. So been talking for so long. So
I gotta go to bed.
Max, thank you so much for joining, and thanks for sticking along for this extra long conversation. So I'll probably be joining you on your channel after the season's over.
You're damn right. It's gonna be awesome. I'm excited for that. That'll be awesome. Yeah, right after season 7, do a discussion on that episode. Oh, I'm excited. It'll be awesome.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to that. And for everyone watching this, I'll be back. Ack and Tomka will be back next week. We haven't cemented our plans yet. We're pretty sure we're going to have another guest, but that's a little bit up in the air. But it will be probably be next Wednesday. But again, kind of up in the air at this point. But we'll definitely be back for episode 5. So yeah, be sure to check that out. And so Max, thanks so much for joining. Where can people find you?
Oh, it was awesome. You can find me right here. I never realized the value of it. You've been staring at it for the last 2.5 hours. Yeah. But Buzztox. There it is. That's exactly how it's written. There you go. Thank you so much, Mark. I love talking to you about Game of Thrones. And literally, I could talk for another hour, 2 hours about it. Like, there's literally so much more to say. And thank you everyone in the chat. Colonel Doomsday. I see Fury. Tookie Malio, Daddy, you know who you are. Marco Minko, everybody, Stephen Bishop, thank you so much, everyone in the chat. And it's been a blast.
Yes, and thanks so much for supporting the channel. Definitely check out Buzztox if you haven't already. And we will see you next time.
See you.